Kuhn is the fullback with the first and goal. Kuhn gets the ball. Pyle trying to get his way in for the touchdown. What a great second effort. Y'all don't really want it like that. Here comes the here comes the y'all don't really want it like that. I said so. I keep big bills up in my heart on the dirty like blood. So ain't got no twist in my head, but I'm still dreadful.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Fantasy Fullback Dive, brought to you by the good people at the Roto Street Journal, acting as your lead blocker to fantasy glory, paving the way to fantasy excellence, making all your football-related fantasies come true. I'm your host, Nat the Truth Jones, a day early. With me, as always, the Wolf of Roto Street himself. Couldn't make it happen on Thursday, but hell if we're going to let this week go by without telling all you folks what we think. So here we are on Wednesday. Those of you that show up, thanks a lot. If you're here and you think your buddies don't know that we're on right now, freaking tell them. Wolf, how's it going?
Doing great. As you mentioned, we appreciate anyone that was willing to just jump in live with us a day early here. If you're catching the replay, welcome on in as well. So great to see you. Cheers to week 8 being here. I'm actually officiating a wedding coming up this weekend in the rehearsal dinners tomorrow. Of course you are. Right. So, yeah, you shall refer to me as Father Wolf the rest of the show, and you can be damned to hell if you make any wrong calls. So be careful here, Wolfpack. You've got the blessings or potential damnation on you. But no, I'm very excited for one of my best friends getting married, rehearsal dinner tomorrow. So had to bump it up a day. Like you said, though, cannot go a week without, of course, giving you our higher, lower Hail Marys, all the news you need to know, previewing an actually good potential Thursday night football game. I think it should be good. I don't know. Both offenses kind of struggling these days. Just excited overall to talk some ball with you, though. Couldn't go a week without it, like you said.
So the bar has been lowered to the point where now, like, yes, this does at face value reflexively look like an intriguing game. The problem is that the Bucs are so terrible that I'm wondering if it's actually going to be a good game. And I mean, the Ravens are not great either, but I put them a level above the Bucs. I mean, the Bucs just seem awful to me. Don't they just seem terrible?
Yeah, they sure do.
Yeah, right.
The fucking Panthers. Like, what argument do we have for any reason to believe in the Bucs? I don't understand how the Ravens are getting points here. We'll talk about the game. Ravens are Ravens are the underdog by 1.5 against the Bucs. I obviously smash the Ravens if that's going to be the line. I get the Bucs are at home. I get Brady in these type of situations has historically come through and turned his team around, but it just seems like a different Brady. It seems like a different team. I'm on the Ravens here with the points. What are your thoughts?
I'm also with the Ravens. By the way, Chris Thomason just put in the comments, "Hey boys, IDK if it's my phone, but the screen's black." Chris, I'm watching on YouTube and I can see us, so it's probably your phone. But thanks for letting us know, because it's not like we're above technical difficulty here. It does happen sometimes, but I think this time it's actually not on our end. Look, I want to smash the Ravens here too. I'm a little gun shy because for a change, you and I actually agreed last time on the Cardinals Saints game. We were like, Saints in the under, and it was like way over, and the Saints, right? I mean, so I felt really stupid, and like the over under ended up being like 76, something like that. So yeah, I think the Ravens in the under is probably where I'm going, but doesn't necessarily mean you should listen to me. I'm just going by the eye test. The Bucs just look terrible.
Yeah, I'm with you too. It's weird. It's scary to be a line, and the Ravens are 2-4-1 against the spread, so not a good record there. The over's also low, 2-5 in Baltimore's games, but it feels low for this one, 45.5.
I agree. It does seem low.
Like, if these offenses get going, I don't think either defenses are playing particularly well, and the Ravens have a just terrible secondary, given all the injuries they've suffered, giving up top 3 points to wide receivers, top 7 to quarterbacks. It could be a good get-right spot for Tom Brady here after a couple weeks of struggling. Granted, he didn't take advantage of good matchups against Pittsburgh, Carolina either, though. I do think the over hits. I think the Ravens hit despite these. The over is also 1-6 in Tampa Bay game, though, this season. So, like, overs in general have been very, very poor. Maybe I'm a little just, like, tainted from last week after just, like you mentioned, we were off by 30 points on the over-under, as a lot of people were too.
And I felt good about that under. I got to say, I've been smashing the under just because of the numbers. Like, the under has been the smart play. Last week, I actually felt good about it. And
I did too.
And I was just completely wrong.
I guess the 2 weeks before that, given like the Commanders and the, those awful games, the Broncos, worst team in the league, like it was easy to hit those unders.
Over like 22.
Yeah.
Right.
I do think this one hits the over, though. There is some intriguing news to go through into that game. And Wolfpack, if you're here with us, that early thumbs up does help us get out to more people. It'd be so greatly appreciated. If you like what you're hearing, hit that thumbs up button, whether you're here live, whether you're catching the replay after the fact. It is so greatly appreciated. We wouldn't beg for it if it didn't truly help beat that algorithm and get out to more people. We've been growing at a great rate, and it's because of your guys' support. So thanks again for being here. Let's dive into some of this news truth.
Absolutely. We are still trying. We're not working up till kickoff. We are still trying to get off 8:15, 8:20. So we're going to try to run the show as usual. Gus Edwards dealing with a knee issue. He is questionable for week 8 against the Buccaneers. Obviously, he has been limited in practice. He is coming off his first game since tearing that ACL right before the 2021 season. So these limited sessions are probably part of the overall master plan. He did run 16 times for 66 yards, had a pair of touchdowns. He was one of the guys the Wolf liked the most on the waiver wire. If not the guy he did like the most, I put in a bid for him. I did not get him. I wasn't that upset about not getting him. I'm going to be honest with you, but I understood why you liked him. Anyway, we'll see what happens for Edwards come game time tomorrow.
Absolutely. And that's probably one of the biggest questions, similar like Brian Robinson 2 weeks ago. Should I or should I not play Gus Edwards? So I'll just give my quick spiel on him. I think he should be locked into lineups. I'm +7 ECR, right around my top 24 running backs. There's definitely some red flags. The fact that he did not see even close to 40% of the snaps, 20 for Justice Hill, 24 for Edwards did lead the way, and I think 17 for Drake. It was still a three-headed committee, though. Yes, the 16 carries look great, and of course, the 2 touchdowns are sexy as all hell. It wasn't a complete lock of a backfield to him, though. Granted, though, it also was his first game back from an injury, and that was more carries than J.K. Dobbins has even come close to sniffing. So they had no problem lighting him up on his first game back. I thought he looked sprier than I've ever seen the Gus Bus. Looked a little bit trimmer. I do love that thick boy.
You look kind of spry.
I kind of like the speed I saw. He was zigging and zagging. And, man, he's got some great career efficiency stats. Ian Hartitz has cited it multiple times. He's one of only 5 running backs through his first 3 seasons to average over 5 yards a clip, to average, over 700 yards. I think he's in it's like Jamal Charles. The names that are around him, I wish I didn't save the stat on my sheet here today, but it is insane the company that Gus Edwards is in terms of his early career efficiency right now. Nobody seems to like him. It just feels boring. But I think against a Bucs team that just got bludgeoned by Donta Foreman, by Chuba Hubbard, I think Gus Edwards is definitely better than both those players, both also popular waiver wire pickups this week. I'm going Foreman or Edwards. Actually, a question I keep getting on Twitter right now. I'm going Gus. I'm locking him in on Thursday night. I'm thinking he falls into the end zone at least once. Maybe you get the double up scores here. They love using him in the red zone. They always have. It's always been a Harbaugh kind of guy, and he always rewards them for their faith. So saddle up the Gus bus. I'm in this week. Where I picked him up, I actually had him I have him in 5 of 6 leagues right now because I had him going in on the IRs for the last 3 weeks I've had Gus Edwards. So I'm pumped, and I'm firing him up in all the leagues I have him with a bunch of buys, with 2 good offenses. I have Eckler in most of those leagues as well. So he's going to be kind of obviously not a replacement, not a 1-to-1 for the best player in fantasy right now. But still, I feel really good about Gus Edwards on Thursday night, getting a score, getting around 60 yards, and maybe he gets 2 for you and is another smash play this week.
All right, Rashod Bateman, foot issue. We talked about him, Rashod Bateman, who I often get confused with Rondale Moore, but not today. He's questionable for week 8 against the Buccaneers. Did come back last week, 4 passes, 42 yards. Before that, he had sat out 2 games in a row. He was held out of practice on Tuesday, but he had a limited session on Wednesday. Seems like he will be playing. And, what do you think? Where would you put him? Wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, what?
Wide receiver 3 range, wide receiver 34 total on my rankings right now. A couple spots above the ECR, but nothing crazy above them. Not a must start for me because the secondary's been okay for the Bucs, but still 5 targets right back into it, leading the team there last week, right around a 25% target share. 42 yards, 4 catches, was a toe tap away from having a touchdown. Looked really close. They ended up not giving it to him. But, man, if he had that touchdown, we'd probably be talking him as a lock into your lineup. So I have him in a couple leagues, and most of them, I'm starting him. I have him over Romeo Doubs, for example, any of the Jets receivers at this point. Right around George Pickens and Drake London, the 2 guys I have above him. And then comparatively, Curtis Samuel, Michael Gallup, Wan'Dale Robinson. Wan'Dale might be one I bump ahead of him, actually. I really do like
this. Come on, man.
Big fan of Wan'Dale. You guys know we're a Wan'Dale show. We've talked about him a million times. So maybe that flips. But overall, I do feel good about Bateman getting back in there. Wouldn't be shocked at all to see a score. And he's been doing the entire route tree. He can get them deep. He can run them along the sidelines. I really like what Bateman has shown throughout the year. So I have no hesitation getting him in as a nice wide receiver 3, maybe real low-end wide receiver 2 type of play. So I like him for sure. Other news to cover here, Mark Andrews is questionable. I think he plays really, really tough game. His only dud, really, of the year last week. Limited fashion came in, and of course, Josh Oliver gets the friggin' touchdown. Obviously, if you have Andrews, though, you don't need our blessing. You're starting Andrews if you have Mark Andrews, the only guy that compares to Kelsey, who's not even on this weekend slate. So, yeah, right. You're playing Mark Andrews, no doubt.
Russell Gage dealing with a hamstring issue. He's out week 8 against the Ravens. Julio Jones' knee issue will be a game-time decision week 8 also against the Ravens. Do you remember when there was like a week or two at the beginning of the year when we were like, is Julio back?
Week 1, he looked – I mean –
we did say he looked fast. I told you I was skeptical, but I admit, I remember we texted back and forth. I was like, does Julio look really good? And you said he kind of looks fast, doesn't he? And then, I mean, how many games has he actually played? Like 2, maybe? I don't know.
I think just that opener, maybe. I think he came in for one other. But
yeah, he might have had a few routes in another game.
Yeah, some empty field routes just galloping down the field. Man, that first week he looked like he was going to be a stud in this offense.
Well, the Buccaneers looked like they might be a good team first week. I remember they beat Dallas 19-3. Dallas looks pretty good now.
Yeah, how the turntables, baby. Yeah, exactly. Michael Scott here. I mean, if Julio plays, he's not in your lineup. Maybe a speculative ad at best, but I wouldn't trust him.
No
games like no, you're not trusting him. I'm with you. Okay, so we can kind of move on from this. I guess the really only takeaway here is whether he's in or out. Gage being out does secure even more targets for Chris Godwin, who's come back to a massive target share the past couple of weeks. We'll talk about him a little bit more in higher, lower Hail Mary, but to me, he's a absolute must start. Love him this week. Love Mike Evans. I know it was, what a absolute brutal drop. I'm sure you saw that one to kick off the red zone action last week. Oh, like 9 for 96 felt like a good game until you realize he should have had a 75-yard.
Should have been like 10 for 170 or something.
Exactly. And he also had another 20-yard touchdown potentially off his hand. It was just a bad night. The worst 9 for 96 day you could possibly imagine. Also out for the Bucs and opening up some more targets is Cameron Brate. And I think this is big because Cade Otton. So we'll talk about tight end Hail Marys. I was shocked to see Greg Dulcich is like 41% rostered. And he was going to be my Hail Mary player of the week, but at 41% rostered, that can't really qualify as a Hail Mary. On the other side, though, Cade Otton only 14% rostered, and I'd rather play him this week, given that both weeks that Cam Brate has been out, he's had at least 4 catches, at least 50 yards, been on the field for 90% plus snaps in both games, showing some real nice chemistry with Brady. I love Cade Otton this week against a bad secondary here for the Ravens. Wouldn't be shocked at all to see him find the end zone. So he becomes my Hail Mary of the week if you catch this in time for Thursday Night Football. I do have another guy later, just in case you catch this on the later end and do not get Cade Otton in. But he's my favorite Hail Mary at the tight end position. Would rather play him than Greg Dulcich. Probably rather play him than Kyle Pitts.
I am not starting Kyle Pitts for the first time this year.
Who are you putting in above him?
Hayden Hurst.
Yeah, I'd do that. Absolutely. Without question.
Don't get me started. This doesn't have to be a Kyle Pitts-centric episode because I just have so much to say.
I thought the perfect meme I saw from Kyle Pitts, one of our boys, Ian Hartitz, put up a picture. You know the one of like the Joker crying and getting the makeup on? It was like, Kyle Pitts is a top 10 tight end again this week. And it's just somebody like putting on the Joker makeup, like crying. It's just like, that's what it's become. Like, it's so hard. It feels so hard to rank him outside your top 10 until you realize he hasn't been even close to a top 10 tight end in any type of metric, usage, production, anything at all. So yeah, he's outside my top 50.
So this is very similar to the comp you just made. I have a friend he was one of the first friends I had who had like a video game system growing up. Obviously I'm older than you. So like the original Nintendo, the original Sega, stuff like that would come out. And I just remember one time I was over at my buddy's house and his younger brother was playing Sega, the original Sega. And I guess he had kept dying or something. And he was just crying while he was playing. He was just sobbing and just still playing and stuff. And it was just like, he just kept doing it. And it was bringing him so much pain, but he just couldn't stop. That's
Couldn't
like what's
stop.
right. And this is what people who keep rolling out Kyle Pitts. Same thing. It's like crying while you're playing.
Drug, man. That
Right.
Kyle Pitts, that Sega Genesis. Sick drugs indeed.
Oh, no, this wasn't even the Sega Genesis. This was just the Sega.
Sega.
Sega Entertainment System. I think it was. This I believe this predated Genesis.
Nice.
All right. Before we get into the news of the week, and I can't believe it's already week 8. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, all that good stuff. We can pick up a few subscribers every show. We'd appreciate it. We're flying. We're up over 2.7K, which is pretty great for us. All right, let's get into quarterbacks. Dennis Allen, Saints coach, said Andy Dalton will be starting in week 8 against the Raiders. He said the decision to bench Winston is about, and this is a quote, performance. They've been basically for the last couple weeks benching him, but not benching him. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, they're clearly benching him, but they're saying it's not. And now it seems like they've admitted, yes, we're benching him.
They finally come out and said it. Yeah, I'm actually a big fan of Andy Dalton this week. The Raiders are giving up the most points to quarterbacks. He had 30 fantasy points last week with 361 yards, 4 touchdowns, did throw 2 brutal pick sixes.
Sure,
One of them really wasn't his
He's
fault.
Andy Dalton.
But it's the red rifle. He was the quarterback too last week. So the fact that he's ranked outside of most top 25, give me Andy Dalton over fucking like Russell Wilson, maybe even over Aaron Rodgers at this point. Yeah. So I have no doubt, no real worries about firing up Andy Dalton. Sneak peek, one of my Hail Marys of the week.
I want to hear your thoughts on this next one.
Yeah, Mac Jones, starting for against the Jets. I mean, what a nightmare situation Belichick's kind of created over here. I personally was hoping he'd just commit to Zappe hour. He did bench Mac Jones. Electric first 2 drives for Zappe into absolute nothing. And now it's like, who's going to go with? He's toying with them all. Mac Jones did take 90% of the first team reps. It does seem like they're going to turn it over to him. And I think as much as I like the Zappe electricity that we've seen, if they're going to go Mac Jones, they have to just commit to it at this point. Deal with a couple bad drives. You can't just have him constantly looking over his shoulder, worried about one bad throw, because then he's not going to – you saw it, the way he was checking down and playing like a little bitch. Like you could tell he was just worried about losing his job the entire game. So I have no idea what Belichick's doing with these games. Yeah.
Did you see that after that first half, like the offensive rookie of the year odds just like shot, like, you know, like all this money came in on Bailey Zappe after the first half, like tons of it. And then like he had like one of the worst second halves like in the history of football.
Yes, tough bids there. Either way, you're not considering either Patriots quarterback. The Jets defense is shockingly good this year. So doesn't really matter, I guess, who's under center. Jacoby Myers gets it done with whoever's there, really, and that's the only weapon you're really worried about right now. So Mac Jones likely starting against the Jets, it looks.
Gun to your head, who do you like, Patriots or Jets? Straight up money line.
See, I really think this is the spot the Pats kind of back up. I know the Jets are a better team right now, especially defensively, but it just feels like the classic spot, like Belichick still playing the little puppet master above Robert Saleh. I think they take it out, and they end up rebounding here after a horrendous game.
I mean, you were shocked to see him get pounded by the Bears, right?
Oh, awful. What?
Okay. I mean, I was wrong on like every game, but that one I was like, well, at least I know the Patriots will beat the Bears. No.
Right. Nope. Not at all.
Ryan Tannehill dealing with ankle issues. He did not practice on Wednesday. He left last week's game against the Colts for a little while. He did come back. Colts were so bad in that game. It caused Matt Ryan to lose his job. Poor guy. So I don't know. It looks like Tannehill may or may not play. I have no idea. They seem to think they're going to see him week 8, but I don't know. What do you think? You think he's going to be there?
The Texans, so another viable streamer. I probably prefer the Red Rocket, Andy Dalton. Again, QB2 last week. But if Tannehill sits, very intriguing to see what Malik Willis would bring to the table. Malik Willis can run all over the field. I know it looks like he just makes a couple dumb plays and fumbles and turnovers throughout the preseason. And when he got in this week, didn't look overly ready for the job. But, man, QB rushing points are QB rushing points. And Malik Willis all preseason looked like he had like Michael Vick level of mobility. So would be really intrigued to see him play. And what a better spot than against Houston Texans. So keep that on your radar. And if Malik Willis is the starting quarterback, he'll probably rank inside my top 20 QB. So super flex-wise or desperation streamer-wise, I could really see Malik Willis having himself a nice day. I don't even know what his DFS price is, but keep it on your radar. I bet you Tannehill plays. But if not, just keep Malik Willis on your radar. And got to bring up Russell Wilson, that hamstring. Said he's feeling good, ready to rock. Woo! Let's ride, baby, after logging a limited practice on Wednesday. High-kneeing across the aisles of Plains Truth. My God, how could you not be more fired up than the guy who is high-kneeing in the aisles? He actually had an interview I just saw where he talked about how he purposely doesn't take shits during the week because he waits till Tuesday and Thursday, the only 2 days he'll allow himself to shit. So that way he does not waste any time.
He'll allow himself to shit.
Yeah, that's
when you've got a shit, how long can you hold it in?
An hour, maybe.
Right, maybe, right. Like, and those are like the days you remember. You're just like, that was one of the worst days of my life. If you're stuck in the car or something like that, you're like, this is the worst thing ever. This guy's like, prepared to hold it for like 48 hours.
I don't get him. He is the weirdest.
He's got a tighter sphincter than me, Wolf.
That's for damn sure. And just like, I don't understand how I got so much hate when I tweeted out that Russell Wilson's one of the biggest tool bags in the NFL. Again, the dude is on the team plane doing high knees up and down the aisle because he can't waste the flight time to stretch himself out. Like, what are we doing? How is he anybody else considering him anything other than a tool? I don't. It just makes no sense to me. Absolutely.
Wolf, don't bring that negativity in here, Wolf.
That's true. Yeah, sorry, folks.
Hey,
you unfollowing right now.
All this talk, just to go on a tangent here, all this talk about Andy Dalton made me remember a podcast that we did together, honestly, like 5 or 6 years ago. I mean, we've been doing this for a long time now. And I just remember, I forget who they had played, but I remember it was one of the worst football games I'd ever seen a quarterback play. And I remember saying that if somehow my consciousness just warped into the body of another human being, and all of a sudden I just woke up and I found myself like on an NFL field with people running at me, and all of a sudden I just had to play quarterback, I was like, that's how Andy Dalton looked. It's just like if all of a sudden like I found myself facing an NFL pass rush and just had to like throw the ball somewhere, I was like, yeah, that's Andy Dalton. And here we are 6 years later, liking him. We like him this week.
Exactly.
Running backs. The Star Telegram's Clarence Hill reports that Zeke has been diagnosed with a sprained MCL and is expected to miss week 8 against the Bears. So Tony Pollard owners, you're welcome.
Running back 6 now in my rankings, Tony Pollard. The only time he's ever started in place of Zeke Elliott, he put up over 30 fantasy points, was the running back 1 that week. And the Bears are a horrendous run defense. Tony Pollard wheels up. And just to like put the stamp onto the fact that he's going to dominate this week, of course I'm facing him in like 6 of my 8 leagues. So of course the one time Zeke misses a fucking game is the week I'm facing Tony Pollard in about all of my leagues. So you know he's going to go off for 30 points yet again. DeAndre Swift, speaking of 30-point upside, is practicing in full Wednesday. Seems very, very likely to be rejoining the team. Obviously, when Swift's in, he's got as much upside as anybody, and he's in your lineup. So play DeAndre Swift.
All right, James Conner returned to practice on Wednesday. So did Darrell Williams. Benjamin's been the guy they've been leaning on lately. He has looked good. Possibly if Conner returns, if everybody returns, maybe Benjamin's locked up the backup role. What do you think?
I think he's got the role ahead of Darrell Williams at this point. He's looked, like you said, pretty damn solid in every facet of the game. So, yeah, I consider him the RB2, the handcuff here. That's why I still consider him a hold at this point, because we know James Conner's history of getting hurt. It's been on the full display all year. So, yeah, James Conner, probably the starter, given how much money they've paid this guy. So, ultimately, I do like James Conner this week. I think the touchdowns are bound to come. We saw a 20-point day from Benjamin. Might be in the cards for James Conner. You can't play with Conner on the field, in my opinion. But you can definitely fire Conner up again if you've been sitting there waiting for him. Chuba Hubbard did not practice on Wednesday, which would definitely make Donta Foreman a much more appealing stream against, actually, who the hell are they facing this week? I forget. That's because it's the Panthers. I don't really ever give a shit what the Panthers
Doesn't matter.
Yeah. If Donta Foreman's the lone guy standing, though, I do consider him a very viable running back, too. In fact, I do think he's the guy. I know Chuba Hubbard started the game. He saw 60% of the snaps, 66% of the carries until he got hurt himself. But Foreman then came in, rips off a 60-yard run, 27-yard run, looking real explosive, just the better player, in my opinion. So I think it is only a matter of time till Foreman takes over the lead running back role here. And obviously, if Chuba doesn't play, that gives him the just clear path runway to take off as that running back too. And I think he's solid. I really do think Foreman's solid. with or without Hubbard on the field, I think you could play Foreman this week, but especially if Hubbard misses time, will definitely be very, very viable. Probably a top 22 running back or so for me, should Hubbard sit this one out.
Coach Matt Eberflus says the Bears will continue to get Khalil Herbert more involved on offense. My favorite part of this whole thing is the part that's in quotes is the words "will continue to get Khalil Herbert more involved on offense." I really like Khalil Herbert. So I watched a little bit of the Manning podcast in the Bears-Patriots game, which I usually don't. I usually watch football games that I'm going, except Red Zone. I usually watch football games with the volume off because I'm usually listening to podcasts or something like that. I actually watched maybe 45 minutes of the Manning cast. I did enjoy it. And Eli especially was very impressed by how hard a runner Khalil Herbert is, just banging into people and stuff like that. He's fun to watch, right?
He's wicked fun to watch. And he actually has more yards after contact than David Montgomery has regular rushing yards.
Right, just regular rushing yards. Right.
He's a monster. He's great after contact, very explosive. I think he's top 5 right now in total 10-plus yard runs, so explosive run rates through the roof. They keep saying hot hand approach, and we actually saw it come to fruition a little bit this week where, Montgomery had been locked into about 70% of snaps or more, even higher in most games than Herbert. But this week we saw it switch to 56% to Montgomery, 41% to Herbert. So still hasn't completely flipped in Herbert's favor, but 15 touches to Montgomery, 14 to Herbert. And we saw Herbert ripping off, 6.2 yards per clip so far on the season, scoring as a receiver in this game, looking great. And Montgomery didn't look bad himself. He's still a good player. He's still going to be involved. But I do think this backfield switches to favor, 60% Herbert, 40% Montgomery by the end of the season, just given the talent gap. I really think Herbert's
he just player. Punishes you when you try to tackle him. I mean,
he really does. And again, Montgomery does similar things, but Herbert just punishes you a little bit. Just
looks a little different with Herbert. I do hear you on Montgomery.
There's a little more zip to it.
It's completely eye test. I don't have data, although you've given me some good data here. But man, he was just hitting people hard, getting like extra yards. I was very impressed.
Yeah, eye test data, all of it. He checks all the boxes, Herbert does. So I think he continues to see his role grow. Robert Saleh said the team will take it slow with newly acquired running back James Robinson. So, yeah, I do think in the first week this often takes – we saw it with Christian McCaffrey, was out-snapped and out-touched by Jeff Wilson in his first week. So you got to imagine James Robinson eased in this first week. Would be tough to trust. I was going to say against the Pats defense. I don't think anybody's worried about the Pats defense anymore.
Good pickup, though. Don't you like this pickup for the Jets? Smart,
Absolutely.
Right away. Picked him up right away.
And you get James Robinson for a 6-rounder. I mean, this guy has been a top 10 running back for both of his professional seasons until he got hurt. Really big fan of this move for the Jets. I do think, again, this taking it slow approach will mean Michael Carter's a little bit more viable this week. But, yeah, long-term, I do think James Robinson's going to find himself in a nice situation here. It looked like Etienne was taking over. It didn't look. It was clear that Etienne was already taking over this backfield after last week, playing over 80% of the snaps, seeing 65 to 70 to 80% of the routes, of the carries, whatever metric you want to look at. It was the Etienne show. So this definitely gives James Robinson a little bit new life, as it was clear he was trending downwards. I do think you have to wait at least a week for that life to come into fruition, though, as they take it a little bit slow with their new acquisition.
Cam Akers, for personal reasons, remains away from the team this week, right? He's unlikely to play Week 8 against the Niners. Listen, I never want to mock personal reasons because there's a wide range of things that could mean, some of which very serious and, nothing to make fun of. But I do want to say the last time something like this was really in the forefront, Calvin Ridley was gambling on football.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say.
Real fucking personal. My God. And in the wake of that, too, Kyren Williams has been designated to return. Remember, they continue to hype up this guy is in for a big role. Adam Schefter early in the preseason was talking about how much the team loved him. And he's only got Henderson to beat, who is just consistently underwhelming, despite seeing tons of snaps, tons of touches, tons of action, 13, 10, and 12 carries in his starts, 10, 11, 12 fantasy points. It's like, yeah, okay, gets the job done. But there's no difference between Henderson and, say, like a Gus Edwards, who I prefer Gus Edwards, higher touchdown upside. Donta Foreman right there with Darrell Henderson, but not really viewed that way. So Kyren Williams does not have a hard depth chart to climb, was a true 3-down back throughout his college career, still only 34% rostered. If Kyren Williams is still sitting there in your league, go pick this guy up. It probably is not usable quite yet this week, but I think it's within a week or two. he's the type of guy that like we don't really know yet what he could do and just could be a stretch run hero for you. So Kyren Williams, go check him out on the waiver wire. Whether he's active this week or not, should be owned in all leagues, I think, at this point.
Doug Peterson says that JaMychal Hasty is going to see more carries in Jacksonville. I mean, it makes sense. If Robinson's gone, someone's got to see a couple more carries. Might as well be this guy.
Hey, he ripped off like an 80-yard touchdown a couple of weeks ago. I always have liked Hasty.
Yeah, me too. I kind of like him too.
I also want to just emphasize, we'll talk about him again when we get to higher, lower, Hail Mary. He's not higher or lower, clearly, but definitely a Hail Mary this week. They play at 9:30 against the Jags. Against the Broncos. So he's the perfect type of guy, especially only if your league allows that type of roster churning. But let's say you pick him up, play. Don't start him by any means unless you're truly desperate. Again, Hail Mary could be potentially viable, but a great guy to put on your bench, try him out. Let's say he gets 12 touches and looks pretty good on him. Bam, you've already beat yourself. You beat the rest of your league on the waiver wire there. And if he sucks, you cut him before the 1 p.m. game start. Get your kicker before that. So it's been a big strategy of mine this year is to not have a kicker until about Sunday night or Monday Night Football. I don't really care who it is because kickers just are always an 8 to 12 point. Like it doesn't really, other than of course a handful. You don't cut Justin Tucker. You don't cut.
No, that's it. That's it.
Like there's really not many more.
That's it. Justin Tucker. That's it.
Inconsistent. So yeah, good tryout in my opinion.
Just so you know, Millie C. Hot from the comments section says Henderson was a no-show at practice today.
Oh, interesting. That was news that had not come up in like the 20 minutes before we went live. So Henderson a no-show. Akers not showing up either. Maybe Kyren Williams does get activated and walks into like a 20-touch role. Go pick up Kyren Williams. If you needed any more reason to go out and get this guy, Henderson a no-show. Who knows why? If it's personal, if it's injury-related. They had the bye week, so I don't know. Who knows what's happening? I do imagine, what if he's getting moved? There's been a lot of rumblings about Kareem Hunt going to the Rams, which, again, I'd be corny as hell here. Would love to see that. So maybe, just maybe, something's happening there. Oh, man, I would love to see that.
Maybe they could trade Allen Robinson for him.
Yeah, seriously. Good fucking God. Though for what it's worth, Allen Robinson did have his best week before the bye. Actually looked kind of good, and Stafford actually looked at him. Maybe Stafford just got over his racism for a little bit. Who knows?
I don't care.
We can only hope as A-Rob supporters here of this show. Moving to wide receivers, Debo did not practice on Wednesday. It was a hamstring injury. Day-to-day is how he's been labeled. I do expect him out there, but obviously something we're going, again, a day early. So Wednesday reports, you often will see guys sit out on Wednesday, practice limited on Thursday, and then get in a full on like the Friday walkthrough type of situation. I bet that's what's happening here with Samuel, but something to monitor as we move through the week.
DK Metcalf also dealing with a knee injury, which breaks my heart. But anyway, he did participate in the team's walkthrough. Pete Carroll says Metcalf is feeling better today, although he's known as an eternal optimist when it comes to this type of thing. Everybody says that DK is almost certainly going to miss Week 8. Marquise Goodwin will be taking his spot. He did have 2 touchdowns, I think, replacing DK last week. So maybe in deeper leagues, check him out.
Him and Goodwin have a nice little rapport. Definitely someone I need to be a little bit higher on, I believe, is Marquise Goodwin this week. Amon-Ra St. Brown at Wednesday's practice. What a frustrating situation that was. Like another one of those. Look, it's tricky because I obviously am all for player safety, like head injuries. You hate to see it. But these kind of looks like he was concussed because he wobbled when he stood up, but ultimately passed concussion protocol, did not prove to have a concussion. They still pull him anyway. It's a dicey line. Like, it's so hard to sit here and, like, you obviously are here for the players and their safety, but, like, you're also, like, clearly Amon wanted to get back in, and you're not allowed to because one guy was spotting and saw you wobble when you stood up, and you passed every other test other than one potential wobble. I don't know. It's a weird new ruling, and, like, again, if it makes players safer, great. But, like, this is going to get, especially in the playoffs, like, when games are on the line, I don't know. Like, this could get dicey is all I'm gonna say. As long as St. Brown's out there, though, he's in your lineup. That's all we'll cut it there.
Wolf, right, cut it there. Wolf, how many times when you're at the bar do you wobble when you stand up?
The entire time.
Like every time, right?
Yeah.
Athletic reports.
Wobble when I stand up. Even if I'm not at the bar, if I stand up out of bed, I usually wobble. Like, I'm a pathetic human at this point in my life. So you'd call me permanently concussed by NFL standards at this point.
Right. You'd be missing a few games. Mike Williams is expected to miss at least 4 weeks. They say he will be missing weeks, not days. There's even talk he might get put on the IR. So great. Keenan Allen, of course, like kind of still inching his way back to full strength. Obviously, if and when Williams returns, we know what he is. He's if Allen's not there, he's a fringe wide receiver 1. If he is there, he's a strong wide receiver 2. Obviously, this opens up the door for Josh Palmer and maybe DeAndre Carter to get a little more action.
Certainly Josh Palmer, who's only 25% rostered right now. And a hat tip to at least Yahoo. I don't know what other platforms have done, but they did move Mike Williams to out. Usually they can't do that during bye weeks, but thankfully you can slide Mike Williams into your IR for now. You can also put Josh Palmer in IRs because he was out last week, so he's still labeled as out as well. So somehow still out there in 25% of leagues, even though he's not even going to cost you a spot. If you have IRs in your league, he'll walk right back into that role that had made him a viable top 30 fantasy product throughout the year so far with no Mike Willie. Makes Gerald Everett. I've gotten some can I cut Gerald Everett? It's bye week. I'm desperate. I'd see what else you can cut because without Mike Williams for at least a few weeks, they're definitely going to be devoid of targets, of touchdowns. I think, Gerald Everett also gets a boost here. And, of course, Austin Eckler remains like a 12-catch plus every single week type of guy with no Mike Williams. Allen Lazard not practicing on Wednesday, a brutal matchup as is. So whether he's in or out, I don't love playing him either way, but could open up the door for Sammy Watkins to see more volume. Not that you really want that either.
Corey Davis did not practice on Wednesday. And in related news, Jets coach Robert Saleh says he does not know if Elijah Moore still wants to be traded. So it sounds like the lines of communication are wide open and doing fine.
Yeah, looking beautiful. There's a clip going viral right now of Matt LaFleur, Mike LaFleur, whichever one's with the Jets. I forget the two brothers. They're offensive coordinator walking by Elijah Moore at practice, and they have the most awkward handshake, and both look like it's just if I had a knife, I'd stab you in the jugular from both of their faces. It's just such brutal, broken chemistry here at this point. I'm just praying, and I think Elijah Moore, 40% rostered right now, is worth a roster hold through November 1st. If he doesn't get traded, it's really hard to promote this guy and make him a viable fantasy product in this just literally rivals the Panthers passing attack at this point. You might hit 200 yards on a good day passing. It's a horrendous, disgusting pie. But if Moore goes to the Packers, Moore goes to the Chiefs, who are both in the market for wide receivers right now, as are the Chargers, given Mike Williams' injury. Moore goes to any of those teams, he's immediately a top 20 fantasy product. So I'd say at least stash him for now, see what happens. It seems very unlikely that he'll get traded, but maybe they showcase him this week. With no Corey Davis, it's his best path to potentially getting some volume. I don't think you can trust him in your fantasy lineup, but worth a stash. Let's see if he gets traded. Jahan Dotson, not practicing Wednesday. Seems very, very unlikely to go. We saw Taylor Heineke get right back in and pepper Terry McLaurin for a season high, 25% target share, 18 fantasy points. Looks like McLaurin should be locked in the lineups for however long Jahan Dotson is out.
Jarvis Landry did not practice Wednesday. Also, Mike Thomas did not practice Wednesday. What? Mike Thomas didn't practice? What are you talking about? Neither one of these guys has seen – I don't think Mike Thomas has seen the practice field or the field since week 3, or at least after week 3, and I think Landry week 4. So no big surprises here. Obviously, Chris Olave is going to continue to get peppered in their absence. Remains to be seen if Mike Thomas will ever play football again. Yeah.
Olave, as you mentioned, leading the NFL in air yards, a must start. You don't need me to continue to promote it, but I keep getting set start questions about him. I don't understand it. Chris Olave is a locked-in top 15 receiver each and every week. Michael Thomas, do you cut the guy at this point? Honestly, bad locker room presence. This is the opposite of Brian Robinson. You've seen those memes, I'm sure, of Brian Robinson gets shot and returns in 4 weeks. Michael Thomas stubs his toe and is out for the entire season. I don't know that he returns. And even if he does, your fantasy locker room must be embarrassed to be associated with this guy at this point.
No, we are. I have him on one of my teams, and it's I'd like to get rid of him, but my team is so bad that the only way, first of all, he's one of many embarrassments in the locker room, but we have to have I need some sort of massive upside potential, and he's one of them. And I know it's like Kyle Pitts having upside potential.
That's also baby.
Oh yeah, sure. It's the same team. This is one of these teams where you just look at it and you're this is the worst group of players ever assembled and the worst locker room that's ever been put together. So yeah, I hear you. I don't think cutting him's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, especially in shallow leagues, because I'm sitting here, I'm like, if I saw Mike Thomas on my waiver wire, yeah, I'm probably picking him up. He had a huge week 1, looked like he was
week one. Week one. So did Julio Jones.
Yeah, true. Like, what's the difference here? Honestly, spot the difference. I can't.
The difference is that I suspect Julio Jones at least wants to play.
Yeah,
and I'm not sure Mike Thomas does.
Who knows? Oh man, it's especially in shallow leagues. It's not the craziest thing to cut Mike Thomas at this point. Sir, if nothing else, for the locker room cancer that he is for your fantasy team. Speaking of just untapped upside and hope, Kadarius Toney still sidelined. Does he exist? Does Kenny Golladay exist? They still haven't even practiced. Who knows since when? The only real hope is Toney gets traded to the Packers, to the Chiefs. Not quite Elijah Moore level of upside, but man, like in terms of rookie seasons, he had one of the best in so many of the predictive measures that it looked like Toney was on the fringe to break out huge. Maybe a change of scenery allows that to happen. I guess the only reason you could potentially roster this guy at that point, because otherwise another just useless hope at this point.
Yeah. Josh Reynolds did not practice on Wednesday. He's missed a pair of practices last week. Then he went limited on Friday. I think he had maybe one catch in the game last week. Nothing to get too excited about. And then Dan Campbell said that Jamison Williams, due to the ACL, will miss, and this is a quote, at least probably another month. So don't get too excited about that. At least probably another month, which to me means like at least 2 months.
Yeah, exactly. Right. There's a decent chance, given how shitty the Lions are right now.
And there's not going to be a playoff run for the Lions, so I don't think you're going to see Jamison Williams this year. I really don't.
I don't know that we do either. Like maybe to get some reps at the end of the season, and it'd probably be limited reps at that. So yeah, I love the IR stash in theory, but at this point, I don't think the Lions have enough to play for to even put Jamison Williams on the field this year. Nico Collins and Noah Brown, 2 other guys that did not practice on Wednesday. Doesn't seem like Nico Collins is going to play this week. Noah Brown, on the other hand, could, and he did lead the Cowboys with targets ahead of CeeDee Lamb in Dak's first game back. Noah Brown's out there in a ton of leagues in a potential Hail Mary this week if you're desperate, assuming he's in.
You want to talk tight ends?
Sure.
TJ Hawkinson did not practice on Wednesday. Let's just add that to the misery that is the Lions. The Lions for a while seemed too good to be like this terrible. Now they seem just about right. What are they, 1-5, 1-6?
Yep.
Yeah, that's right around what they look like. Anyway, he didn't practice on Wednesday, so that won't help.
I am excited. It looks like they're queuing up the number 1 or number 2 pick. Like, let's see Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, whichever quarterback they decide on. They're definitely a few pieces away, but they have a good line in place. They have some good weapons in place. Defense, a whole other issue, a whole other nightmare.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, they still are top 7 in scoring. You put a really good quarterback potentially back there. I don't think they're far.
So I agree with you on that, and I would actually love to see them get a real big-time quarterback. That would be great. I saw a question today. It was like on TikTok or something like that. They were talking about the top quarterback taken in each round and, for the last 12 years or whatever, and like how they're doing. And there's like a little comment next to each one of them. And for Jared Goff, it was like, look, everyone thought he was the guy. Do you think he'll even be a starter in 5 years? It's like 5 years. Are you kidding me?
1 year.
Five games, maybe.
This
like
is it.
even
Yeah.
right, 5 years. Do I think Jared Goff's going to be a starter in 5 years? Hell no. I don't think he's going to be a starter in 5 years.
No.
Anyway.
I could see him being like a retread tossed around for like maybe 2 or 3 more years.
Like a Chase Daniel or something?
Yeah, well, he's been, a backup for his whole career. He's really done it right. Like, the guy's
he's made tons of money. Yeah.
At least Goff gets on the field and earns his keep. Chase Daniels, what an unbelievable.
Would you rather be like a walking joke like Jared Goff? And maybe he's a bad example because he went to a Super Bowl. Or like just a career backup that made like $70 million or something.
Save my body all day. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, me too. I'd much rather just kick it, toss the ball around with the starting quarterback, take 5% of the snaps. That'd be a great gig.
Nobody has done it better than Chase Daniels in terms of that is the exact person I would like to model if I was going to be an NFL player. I want to be Chase Daniels. I want to make like $100 million and never play a snap. That's perfect.
Yeah. That's
100%.
That's living the
Darren
best
Waller
life.
back to practice today and Wednesday. Great. You can get your 6 fantasy points on a good day, good week from Darren Waller. Just an awful. So many underwhelming performances from the Raiders, including Darren Waller so far.
Yeah, absolutely. Last but not least on tight ends, I love this one. ESPN's Dan Graziano said a league source told him, and this is a quote, not to be surprised if the Packers' solution at receiver ended up being a tight end. Maybe Kyle Pitts?
Maybe.
I'm completely joking.
No, there's no way they'll trade him. They probably are alluding to maybe Mike Gesicki, who's been rumored to be very available. It's just like Tunyon's really the only decent pass catcher other than Aaron Jones on your roster right now.
Lazard's fine. He's fine.
He's a fine number 2. They need
fine.
a number 1 receiver. So, like, what is acquiring Mike Gesicki really doing for your offense? Nothing. They need to go get Elijah Moore or Chase Claypool, a DJ Moore. For Christ's sake.
Allen Robinson?
Even Allen Robinson. Screw it. Go get Allen Robinson. Something.
Do you think Allen Robinson could have a resurgence if he went to the Packers?
I think so. I really don't know that he's looked that bad. I just think he hasn't seen any of the volume. Like,
you think the racism is the issue?
I think it's racism. I just laugh saying it. Like, that's the issue here. Oh, God. Other notable issues or injuries. Marshawn Lattimore not practicing on Wednesday, nor is Tre'Davious White not going to play in Week 8. He hasn't played all year for the Bills, but coming back in early November, likely for a defense that's already scary. Even scary to think Tre'Davious White, what he could add there. But Marshawn Lattimore, the Saints have been a mess. Jamar Chase going off, DeAndre Hopkins going off. Yes, 2 great receivers, but still, with no Lattimore, he's a beast, and Adams is on deck. Fire up Adams as a top 3 receiver this week with no Lattimore.
All right, let's round up the defense. We don't get to hit these too often, but Tre'Davious White won't be playing in Week 8 against the Packers.
Exactly. Let's move on to higher, lower Hail Mary, folks.
Before we do, give us a like. Yeah. Give us a subscribe. We're pushing 8 o'clock, and we're just now getting to higher, lower Hail Mary. So we're gonna roll.
Here we go, folks. Looks like a lighter mailbag so far. I understand it's no Thursday night kickoff, none of that rush to get your lineup set. But
there's still people here.
Tomorrow. I have that rehearsal dinner, like I talked about, getting ready to officiate a wedding. So if you want my take on your lineups, get it in tonight, especially for Thursday night football. I'll obviously be back Sunday morning with my man CJ. Probably in some pretty rough, hungover shape, though. So this is about as elusive of a response as you're going to get from the Father Wolf this week. So definitely get your questions on in, Wolfpack. We're doing this show because I want to answer your questions this week. So please do get those questions on in, get the mailbag up higher. And as the True said, the thumbs up button is so greatly appreciated if you are willing to toss it in. Let's rip through these higher and lower Hail Marys, though.
Let's go.
As you mentioned, we're getting close to
Jimmy G.
8 o'clock already.
Jimmy G at the Rams, quarterback 12 for you. The experts like him at 14. It is so hard for me to trust Jimmy G these days. I go back and forth on him maybe more than any other quarterback in the league. You like him at the Rams this week. Why?
I do. Coming off 41 and then 37 pass attempts in back-to-back weeks, 296 and 303 yards, both season highs in back-to-back weeks. Did not throw 2 touchdowns in those weeks as well, 19, 17, 18 fantasy points. Top 9 QB in 3 straight weeks now. I don't mind it. The Rams certainly are good against the run, but they've given up the 2nd most points to wide receivers. I think with Christian McCaffrey now here, this is just going to be a pass. I shouldn't say pass happy. It's not a pass happy attack necessarily, but again, 41-37. And I think the Rams can also put up their points too. So I do like Jimmy G to chuck it at least 35 times here and have himself a pretty solid day. I think another top 10 quarterback performance is in his grasp for sure.
Daniel Jones at Seattle. You like him at quarterback 14, 4 spots below the experts. I haven't seen the list. I'm a little bit surprised that you're so much lower on him. And I'm not like a Daniel Jones stan by any means. So talk to me about this one.
Yeah, I mean, he's coming off. Should we call him Daniel Vick at this point? 107 rushing yards last week, including a score on the ground as well. He's looking very mobile. Real life-wise, honestly, and fantasy-wise, clearly last week with quarterback 3 with 29 points. He's getting it done. He's certainly moving the chains on 3rd downs, looking solid. But he's been, so far this year, only 2 performances in the top 16 quarterbacks. 16, 22, 20, 8, 20, 17, 3. And now we're all locking him into our top 10. Yes, Seattle is a pretty solid matchup for quarterbacks, the top 10 matchup. Daniel Jones in a week with no Pat Mahomes, with no Justin Herbert. Is he a fringe top 10 guy? Sure. But the Seattle defense has actually stifled up a bit, and Daniel Jones just hasn't been that great all season. So we're banking on another 100-yard and touchdown game on the ground. Could he do it? Sure. If you're desperate for a steerman, can you play Daniel Jones? Absolutely. But he's ranked above Jimmy G, who I have higher, and he's really ranked above like just a lot of guys that I'd have higher than him. Like, I mean, top 10 puts him ahead of Derek Carr, puts him ahead of Geno Smith. Both guys I would no-brainer have above Daniel Jones. So again, at 14, could you play him? Absolutely. Like, he's in the range of starters here. But just like it feels too high for a guy that's had only 2 top 16 performances through 7 weeks so far this year.
That's a very convincing argument. You have swayed me, actually.
It's Daniel Jones.
No, you're right. You're right. It's recency bias. He had a big week last week.
Huge week.
You're right.
And maybe he does it again.
Yeah, maybe he does. But look. I don't believe in the Giants, and they're 6-1. It's just like there's some like 6-1, 5-1 teams that I just don't think are very good. Hello Vikings. Hello Giants. Anyway, yeah, you've convinced me. Hail Mary, Justin Fields at Dallas, 35% rostered. I don't think much of this guy as a passer, but we saw against the Patriots, he can scramble and he can pick up yards on the ground. He does have legit Konami upside. That's for sure.
Absolutely. The whole thesis behind playing Daniel Jones right now is he's 4th in the NFL in projected, in terms of projected rushing pace for how many carries he's had this year. But who's second is Justin Fields. So I'll go to the guy running it more often, in my opinion. 12 carries and then 14 carries this last week against New England. 12 of them were designed runs too. So they're starting to add this wrinkle to their playbook, and look at how much success they had after doing it. So you love to see them using him this way. And he's been the quarterback 12, quarterback 8, and quarterback 5. 3 straight top 12 games for Justin Fields. He's actually the quarterback 4 across the last 3 weeks, which is insane because it hasn't looked all that pretty, but that's the Konami code itself. Justin Fields has looked really, really solid. He does get a tough matchup against Dallas. There's no arguing that. It's not the best spot for him, but the rushing upside certainly is there. And then you look at his next 3 matchups. All are top 5 in points allowed to quarterbacks. Miami, number 5. Detroit, number 3. Atlanta, number 2. So if you use him this week, there's that rushing upside that creates a little bit of a floor. But even if not, even if you're stashing the guy, I think against Miami, Detroit, and Atlanta, he's going to be right in my top 12 quarterbacks for those 3 weeks, given that's how he's performing right now in tougher matchups. It just seems to be getting better and better by the week. I sneaky really like Justin Fields for the rest of the season, especially the next 3 weeks after this one, and could be a nice little plug-in if you're missing Mahomes or Herbert this week too.
Yeah, that's fantasy. He's not a very good quarterback, but he's putting up fantasy numbers. And that was the knock on Jalen Hurts for a while. Now he's actually a good quarterback.
And we already mentioned Andy Dalton coming off a 30-point fantasy day, 361 yards, 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, but he's got the weapon. He has his coach's trust to just chuck it, and now he gets the number 1 matchup for quarterbacks. I think he can fire up the red rifle. If you miss on Justin Fields or you're worried about that Cowboys matchup, famous last words, fire up the red rifle.
Fire up the red rifle. Then,
and lose your week.
in a movie, it's like fire up the red rifle, or a TV show, and then the next scene is you just being zipped up into a body bag and just rolled away.
Sounds so perfect. Sounds so right.
Let's go, red rifle.
Exactly. I like him more than Russell Wilson, and maybe even Aaron Rodgers.
Of course. Who don't you like more than Russell Wilson?
Yeah.
I mean, there's very few guys.
That's true. Yeah,
he's terrible.
Very true.
Sam Ehlinger. This is a burning question we've got. He is obviously replacing Matty Ice. Matt Ryan has said he is shocked and surprised that he's being replaced and benched. Really, Matt? Really?
After how you played.
Are you?
It's certainly
that makes one of us.
Yeah, right, exactly. Abysmal performance so far on the year. He hasn't been getting a ton of help from his line or his receivers with drops. All that to say, though, Sam Ehlinger, the reason why he's a must-watch is, 1, what's the target tree look like under him? 2, the guy's got some nice mobility, too. So that horrible line, with his mobility, that's probably why they're going to him, is that he can escape the pocket, make plays on the run. Maybe that opens up the rushing lanes. We've seen that be huge, like Geno Smith or Kenneth Walker, for example. When you have a mobile quarterback, it really makes it tough to key on the running back. So maybe Taylor gets a little more life with Sam Ehlinger. He himself, 33 rushing touchdowns when he was in college there at Texas. It looked great all preseason with 24 of 29 passes completed, 290 yards, 4 touchdowns, rushing 6 times for 71 yards and a score. Again, that's preseason. That's against backups. He has yet to attempt a regular season NFL throw. But I'm excited to see it. And if you're in a 2 QB league, the guy's still out there in all but 10% of leagues in 2 quarterback leagues. I think he could be a viable flex moving forward in super flex leagues. So Sam Ehlinger, very, very excited to see what this guy does this week.
All right, running backs. Tony Pollard leading the way, going against the Bears. We've already heard you say you like him as your running back 6. That's 15 above the experts. I have to think that will get a little bit closer. Obviously, injury to Zeke has maybe not set in as far as everybody's rankings yet. I'll bet you're still high compared to the experts. You just aren't going to be 15 high.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to include him on here. And you probably won't need any extra push to get Tony Pollard into your lineup. But I could see some do I make sure I start him over? There's those fringe top 10 running backs here. Honestly, above Jonathan Taylor, I'd have Tony Pollard in my lineups. Alvin Kamara, give me Tony Pollard, even above Dameon Pierce. I don't think the experts are going to consistently have him above those guys. So I did want to emphasize in those kind of shallower leagues that I love him. He already was playing 65% of the snaps last week compared to 45 for Zeke. So he outsnapped him already. He was kind of trending towards Pollard, and now you have no Zeke Elliott likely. Remember, the only time we've seen Tony Pollard start, I said this stat earlier, but 31 fantasy points, the running back won that week, and the matchup is a cakewalk against the Bears. So, yeah, I would absolutely be firing him up as a top 6 running back play. No-brainer. Again, 4 or 5 running backs. That's it. That's all I'd have above Tony Pollard, should he be the only guy there.
Other side of the ball, same game. Khalil Herbert, running back 30, 6 spots above the experts. They like him down at 36. We talked about Herbert a decent amount before. Real quick, why do you like him a little more than everyone else?
Just to reemphasize those points for the people that might be just joining us. Did play 41% of snaps, the season high for games with Montgomery in there. 14 touches to 15 touches for Montgomery. Continues to look significantly better. And Montgomery hasn't looked bad. It's just that Herbert, top 5 in 10-plus yard runs, top 10 in rushing yards after contact per attempt. So many of the most predictive measures for running backs. This guy is smashing, as you mentioned, the eyeball test. He just looks like a damn good running back out there. And they continue to say, we're going to get him more involved. We're going to continue to ride the hot hand. And so far, he has had that hot hand, and they've been true to their word in getting him out there more and more and more. This might be the week it flips. So a guy that most will bench and wait till they see it. If you're desperate for a running back this week, not a must start, but certainly a fringe flex play that I think you can get behind because the talent that just gets his role more and more elevated by the week.
James Conner at the Vikings, RB22 according to you. That's a lot higher than the experts. RB33 for them. Obviously, this hinges on him playing, which we think that he will. Why do you think you like him so much more?
I think it's similar to Pollard in that injury adjustments, waiting till he's fully locked in. I imagine he'll rise about 5 to 6 spots. I just still think I'll be higher than him, given the Vikings are a top 7 matchup for running backs. Given that we just saw Eno Benjamin put up 20 fantasy points. It's been bad touchdown luck for a guy that scored over 20 touchdowns last year to have only 1 so far this year. Feels a little fluky. I think things are going to flip for the right reasons for James Conner starting this week in the right type of matchup. I think you get at least 1 score, maybe even 2 against Minnesota, and he kind of gets his season back on track. Not a bad buy low, in my opinion, is James Conner this week.
Okay. Lower, nobody. We love them all. Hail Marys, on the other hand. Yeah. On the other hand, Hail Marys, Latavius Murray at Jacksonville, 40% owned. Also, Dontrell Hilliard at the Texans, 11% owned. And we already referenced JaMychal Hasty going against the Broncos at a measly 5% rostered.
Yeah, so I start with Latavius Murray, who was the second in snaps for the Broncos last week behind Melvin Gordon. Boone did come in for the third down work, but Boone's on the IR now. So Latavius Murray, a good pass protector, better than Melvin Gordon in that regard. We know Melvin Gordon's like a fumble away from not even being heard of again. It seems like the coaching staff just doesn't like this guy. Murray got fed more and more as the game went on. He was the only guy to get a goal line touch in this game. He converted it for a touchdown. So I do like Murray. This Jacksonville run defense has been getting worse and worse by the week. I do like Hilliard as well. He didn't have a single fantasy point last week, but against Houston, it's a very easy defense to make big chunk gains against, and he's one of their big explosive playmakers. It's been kind of a 0 or 15-point type of situation for Hilliard, but I think this is the type of defense where you could escape on a screen. They've been getting, Henry so involved as a receiver, which is amazing. That's why he's a locked-in top 3 running back every single week, but they're often redirecting balls to Hilliard off of those designs to Henry, and he's been finding space. And I really like Hilliard as a player. I just always pass the eyeball test for me. And I like when my Hail Mary, if I'm desperate enough to start him, that kind of sucks. But at least he comes with, like, if something, doom strikes and something happens to Henry, you've now got yourself a top 20 running back play for however many weeks Henry's going to miss too. So it's not just like it's a handcuff with benefits type of situation. And that's kind of how I like my Hail Marys at this point. And then JaMychal Hasty, similar. If something ever happened to Etienne, he's literally the last man standing. There's nobody else on the roster at this point. A capable receiver, had an explosive run already this year. Just a guy that you can stash and try out at 9:30 a.m. And if it sucks, you cut him. No worries there. I know you mentioned I didn't have a lower mentioned on here. I have Jonathan Taylor 5 spots below the ECR. You're still probably playing Jonathan Taylor against a bad Washington defense, but it's just a matter of, like, what does this offense look like? So if you're in one of those situations like it's Pollard or Taylor, I'm going to go Pollard myself and another guy, David Montgomery, on the wake of me loving Khalil Herbert, 4 spots below where I have David Montgomery against a good Dallas run D. I could see that backfield switching to Herbert, so I'm a little bit more skeptical of locking Montgomery in. I'd rather have Gus Edwards, Brian Robinson, Devin Singletary, the aforementioned James Conner, all ahead of David Montgomery in my rankings, but not the experts.
All right, you did mention Travis Etienne a second ago. We are obviously watching to see what happens with him without James Robinson. And similarly, related to James Robinson, the Jets' distribution of carries on the other side, week 1 with no Breece Hall. And then, of course, we are fascinated to see what ends up happening with CMC in his first full week with the Niners. Come on, show us something. Let's go.
Let's see it, baby. You just traded so many picks to get this guy. We can't have another 7-touch day. Let's fire him up as the 22 to 30 touch guy he is in the most creative run game scheme there is in the NFL. This is where we see why they traded for him. I cannot wait to see how CMC looks in this offense.
Can you believe, by the way, how lousy that division is? Remember how good we were?
Right?
There's so many divisions that we thought were going to be terrible that are excellent, and so many divisions, or at least record-wise, are excellent. And there's so many divisions where, oh man, that AFC West, it's going to be a bloodbath every night. Now, I was right about the Broncos. I never thought they'd be good, but I thought the Raiders would be good, and the Chargers kind of look like they stink. I'm just going to kind of put it out there. The AFC West kind of sucks.
They got smashed by the Seahawks, the number 1 team in the AFC West. It truly is West Coast, huge expectations coming in the year, completely underwhelming. East Coast, very low expectations and dominating. All the AFC East is above 500 other than my shitty Pats. The AFC NFC beast is monstrous with the Cowboys, the Giants, and the Eagles, maybe the best team in the entire NFC. It's fucking crazy how the NFL has flipped this year, where West Coast was supposed to dominate, East Coast was supposed to be pathetic. It's the Beast Coast, baby. Let's go.
It totally is. The only thing we were all right about is that the NFC South would be terrible. Or the AFC South, sorry. And the NFC South isn't too good either, actually.
Yeah, both Souths really below.
Right. You're right. Okay, we were right about that. All right. Wide receivers, let's move on. Chris Godwin, we know we like this guy. The Bucs suck, but you got to kind of like Chris Godwin here going against Baltimore. Wide receiver 13 for you. Experts have him at 17. Just with all these injuries and stuff going on with their receiving core, Godwin is Mr. Reliable as usual, right?
Yeah, he's been so reliable the last few weeks in terms of targets, target share. We finally saw after a couple weeks them easing him in to the lineup to about a 50% snap share. Back-to-back weeks now with right around 80 to 90% of the snaps, depending on the week, 12 and 13 targets across his last 2 games. Just hasn't got it done as a touchdown scorer, but as we know, touchdowns can be fickle, and I think this is the week against a team giving up the second most points to wide receivers with all the injuries, as you just mentioned, around him. I think Godwin really comes out and maybe has a 2-score day. Today, he's been right on the verge of breaking out. He's the type of guy I would be hammering a buy low on right now before Thursday. I think this is his coming out party on Thursday Night Football. I love Godwin. I would the DraftKings captain stuff. That's who I'd be putting in there. I think he's going to have a monster day on Thursday Night Football.
You like Brandon Aiyuk a lot. I also like Aiyuk this week going against the Rams. Wide receiver 22 for you, all the way down at 29 for the experts. I like him too. What do you make of Debo this year? I know this is not the guy on your list, but doesn't he just seem like – I'm not even blaming Debo. It just seems like he's burning a hole in people's pockets kind of.
Yeah, Debo's been, okay. He's had 12 or more fantasy points in all but 2 weeks, so he's been, decent. The thing is the ceiling's been a whole lot lower, where we were getting, 30 to 40-point blow-ups last year. That just hasn't been there because the rushing workload hasn't been there, and I don't think it is going to get there.
No, then they got McCaffrey now. Right.
Yeah, Debo, he's the type of guy, opposite-wise, like, I'd consider selling him on the name value alone. Has he been good? Like, yeah, he's been good.
I mean, he's a phenomenal talent. Like,
he's insane.
I'm not hating
He's one of the best receivers in the league, just like as a unique talent playmaker. Unbelievable. But as a fantasy product, he's been like a mediocre wide receiver too, that we continue to rank and value as a wide receiver 1. You can trade him as an elite wide receiver 1 right now. I think with McCaffrey in tow, we saw it last week. 7 targets, 5 catches, 42 yards, just 1 carry. He's only had 2 or fewer rushes in 4 straight games now. And without that type of volume, that was the big concern. That's why I called him a round 2 fade in my draft guide this year. It's been even worse than I expected, though, and it's, I think, only going downhill now with Christian McCaffrey there. So a nice top 25 receiver, sure. Being valued as a top 8 guy every single week, not so much. So, yeah, a little bit lower on Debo, especially because we've now seen Brandon Aiyuk out-target him in 2 straight weeks. 11 and 11 targets back-to-back weeks, 80-plus yards in back-to-back weeks for Aiyuk. 2 touchdowns 2 weeks ago. No scores last week, but 25 and 12 points in half PPR leagues. A wide receiver 3, wide receiver 24 in back-to-back weeks. The big thing has been Jimmy Garoppolo having to throw more. That's why Jimmy Garoppolo was my quarterback hire of the week. I think against the Rams, another matchup where they're probably going to have to take to the air more often than they might like to. The Rams are the number 1 team against running backs so far this year, bottom 5 team against wide receivers. So just in terms of matchup-wise, scheme-wise, I think we see the 49ers yet again take to the air early and often with Jimmy Garoppolo, Brandon Aiyuk. We've seen George Kittle kind of have a resurgence, all at the expense of Deebo Samuel that you keep mentioning. But I think another big top 20 potential week for Brandon Aiyuk's on the cards this week.
Yeah, sorry to derail that talking about Deebo, but
no, it's true. It's a good point, though. It's a good talking point. Like, he just has not been the Deebo that we expected as a second-round pick. He's shown all the reasons why we wanted to fade him, honestly, even more so than what we'd expect. Yeah, I'm looking at him like I have him wide receiver 11 right now, and I'm one spot.
Oh, that seems high to me. I love Deebo. I really do. I have to keep qualifying with that because I do love the guy. This is somebody that people spent $50 in their auctions on.
I want to bump him below, honestly, Olave, who I have at wide receiver 16. I think I'm going to look at this and adjust my rankings. And, of course, that's going to be the week like Deebo has 2 touchdowns, sees like 10 carries out of nowhere.
Yeah, and he'll whip it out and smack us with it.
Tell me where you draw the line, Truth. Jalen Waddle against Detroit. Deebo or Jalen Waddle?
Oh, gosh. Probably Waddle, which I don't like saying that, but because I don't really like Waddle and I love Deebo, but yeah.
Hopkins at Minnesota.
Oh, geez. That's close. I might lean Hopkins.
Godwin, who we just talked about, or Deebo?
I would say Godwin.
T. Higgins.
God, probably Higgins.
These are all the guys. It's like, which one do I bump him? Like, where do
every time I'm like, I feel like I should apologize every time I say this, but I'm just being honest. Yeah, I'd probably take those guys over Deebo.
That's what I'm saying. Like, as a fantasy product, Deebo as a real life receiver, I'd probably put above every single guy we just talked about.
Yeah, maybe not Hopkins.
Maybe not Hopkins at this stage of his career. I don't know.
Maybe
fantasy wise, without these carries and with Brandon Aiyuk really emerging as he is and Kittle continuing to ascend. It's Deebo, again, a high-end wide receiver, too, is how he probably should be viewed on his role. Talent can definitely overcome that and have some huge spike weeks for sure. But, yeah, it's so tough. Like you say, I want to apologize for, slandering Deebo because as a player, there's very few people that I like. It's kind of like Kittle. Like, when I slander Kittle because he does not seeing a ton of – I love Kittle. I think he's the best tight end in the league, yet his role is not all that amazing. It's just that classic tug of war between the talent, between the role and the usage. It's a tricky role of fantasy owners, I guess,
All right, let's talk wide receivers. Drake London. We got derailed there. Sorry, guys. I'm like, we need to hurry, and then I slowed us down completely. Drake London.
The beauty of not having a game that we're up against. I know we want to get out of here at 8:15, but it gives us a little more freedom to just kind of breathe.
We'll fly a little bit. Drake London against Carolina. You like him at wide receiver 36, 4 spots above the experts. Sure, why not?
I don't know. He's not a guy I'm in here loving by any means. 3, 6, 6, and 1 fantasy points. We know how reluctant Arthur Smith has been to throw the ball. I mean, they were down by over 2 scores nearly all game, and they ended up throwing the ball 14 times. A 45% pass rate even though they were down by 14 points. The league average when you're down by more than 7 is 72% pass rate. So we've never seen an offense this weird and inept when they're down. So that does make me a little bit nervous for London. all that is to say, I think this is the week they come out and like throw it at an actual NFL average clip. If you get that, which is what they were doing at the beginning of the year, we saw 10, 21, and 13 points for London to start the season. It's been all downhill since. I kind of think this is his rebound against a nice matchup against Carolina. I mean, Mike Evans, as you said, should have had a 150-yard touchdown day. Godwin had himself a decent enough day. This is a good spot for London to rebound. So I just have him a little bit higher than like he's kind of a bench and the experts. He's probably, I don't want to necessarily play Drake London, but at wide receiver 36, above, say, Curtis Samuel, above, Michael Gallup, guys that are ranked ahead of him right now, I just don't think are worth it. So little slight leaning to London this week compared to some of the names below him.
Kevin, real quick, throwing us $5 to ask. Got a gross one because of Mike Will and DK. Start 2. Wan'Dale, Darrell Henderson, London, Zay Jones, Melvin Gordon. Wow, that is gross. He said it. He admitted it.
Yeah.
What do you think, Wolf? You like 2 of those guys?
You got to start 2 of them. I'm used to like.
You got to start 2 of them.
I'm always like with Kevin's questions, like, fuck, I have to actually bench one of these guys. This blows.
No,
I don't know what team this is, Kevin. Maybe like you mentioned the injuries and DK. Like, yeah, put you in a tough spot. Of this list, assuming Henderson returns to practice, which, as you mentioned, Truth.
By the way, Millie just said, FYI, Henderson was updated from no-show to illness.
Okay.
Thank you, Millie. Millie's hooking us up with the inside dirt.
I see a comment from my boy Angel up there that I cannot wait to address. Thank you, Angel. My butt hurt advice about the Giants.
Am I your
Giants?
Am I your boy that's a Giants hater?
No, I'm the boy that's a Giants hater. I consistently am low on Daniel Jones. I'll say this. I love Wan'Dale. I'm going Wan'Dale here. So, Angel, I do like some Giants out there, including Wan'Dale. Saw 8 targets, 5 catches in the first half. Disappeared a little bit later in that second half. Didn't see much of him. But, man, did he look electric. 27.5% target rate on his routes right now. That's top 10 in the league for guys that have ran 50 or more routes. So, I'm in on Wan'Dale. Big fan of him, starting him above these other guys. And then I think I go Henderson. If he's in the illness issue, so who knows how serious that illness is, but knowing he's back, at least it was just an illness situation, he's probably going to see 70% of the snaps, decent bet to find the end zone. In his 3 starts, he's got 11, 12, and 11 points. Like, is he lighting the world on fire? No, but is that a fantasy starter? Yeah, it is. So I'm going to go Henderson. I'm going to go Wan'Dale, just very slightly over Drake London.
Fine.
What about you? Who are your 2 guys?
That's who I would take too. I mean, I guess I would consider London, but I mean, yeah, that's probably who I would take too. And I feel bad saying like they're awful picks because Kevin led with saying it was gross. It's not like he doesn't know. But yeah,
they're not that like honestly. I've got some starters this week. Like if you have a lot of Chiefs and Chargers, you're in some trouble here. I'm starting Wan'Dale, and I'm like that's all I've got. My running back situation is pretty gross too. So I get it, Kevin. I have Eckler out. I have, Mike Williams out too, so I'm scrapping too. Wan'Dale and Henderson's not the worst at all. I know I gave a little noise, but like there's worse than that. I'm just used to like being like, fuck, I have to bench one of these guys for you. So, a little bit different Kevin Rice question this week, it seems.
All right, wide receivers lower. Deontay Johnson at Philly, wide receiver 27. Experts like him at 23. What you thinking?
A great secondary and a guy that just has not been great at all. 3, 9, 6, and 7 fantasy points in his last 4. It's been the George Pickens show ever since Kenny Pickett took over. The most targets on the team, the most yards, the most fantasy points since Kenny Pickett took over the situation. We're still getting like volume, 13, 7, and 10 targets in his last 3 games for Deontay. It's just not turning into anything very viable. So against one of the best secondaries in the league, do I think he's going to suddenly like reemerge and be this smash top 30 receiver? No, I don't. So I'm just a bit lower on him than like the absolute lock must play. He's getting ranked as a top 22 receiver right now. I don't think he should warrant that type. Like, give me Aiyuk. Give me Terry McLaurin, who he's ranked ahead of. Give me like Devonta Smith, who's ranked right around him. I even go DJ Moore at this point, and you know how bad I am on DJ Moore most of the weeks. PJ Walker actually likes DJ Moore, though. So a lot of guys I would just trust a little bit more than Deontay Johnson.
Christian Kirk against Denver in London. Wide receiver 26 for you. Again, 4 spots below the experts.
Bottom 2 matchup for wide receivers. Great to see him get 10 targets, 7 catches, 96 yards. Like back on track. Wide receiver 16 last week. I think Denver's a tough matchup, though. I just think that game is going to be hideous. I think we're going to get like a 6-3 London, just ew, type of 9:30 wake up. So I don't like the spot for Christian Kirk. 2 weeks before last week was 5 and 3 targets. I could see another like 5 target, 4 catch, 20-yard day. And if he doesn't get bailed out by a touchdown, we could be in some trouble.
Romeo Dubs, this is really gross. Wide receiver 44, 7 below the experts. I think you're high on him.
I might be, honestly, a little bit too high here. The only case that could be made for him is maybe Lazard sits and now he's like the number 1 guy. But Rodgers this week, like, we need young guys to step up. There's too many that I don't trust on. Like, very directly, pretty much just calling out Romeo Dubs for not making plays. He was 0 for 4 last week, one of the lowest graded receiver performances we've seen this year. Yeah, we all have bad days at the office. He still was in there for the most routes, the most, top 3 targets last week. But I think this is like, I think he's just going to continue to get moved down. The more and more we see Aaron Rodgers less and less pleased by this guy, I think he's going to kind of disappear to the mystic here, fade into the mystic. 4 and 0 points his last 3 weeks too. It's not like he's been doing much for you to give you confidence. And now that Rodgers is publicly calling him out, and it's like the bottom 3 matchups for wide receivers against Buffalo. Let's not consider any Packers. No Rodgers, no Lazard, no Dubs. Like, let's cross that team out this week. No, thank you. Only Aaron Jones.
Cross them out for the year. Hail Marys, the Wolves' boy, Donovan Peoples-Jones, 22% owned. Also, Tyquan Thornton, who you've been kind of circling for the last couple weeks.
Yeah. I mean, Peoples-Jones just continues to get it done week in and week out with Brissett. 6 catches, 71 yards, 4 catches, 71 yards, 4 for 50. Like, are they lighting the world on fire? Oh, and then 571, no. 10, 7, 10, and 8. It's not amazing, but that is sustenance for fantasy. That's 4 straight weeks in the top 50 wide receivers. And when you're looking at a Hail Mary, and again, 3 of those 4 weeks were top 40. So, like, again, not a huge ceiling. But if one of those deep bombs goes for a touchdown, now we're talking about a top 20 wide receiver week. And similar to like that, when I like to have a Hail Mary running back play, I want to be a handcuff with some upside too. We get Watson coming back in just 3 to 4 weeks here, one of the best deep passers in the NFL. So Peoples-Jones is like, you can play him and still have a lot of upside, a lot of fancy meat on the bone for future weeks here. And then Tyquan Thornton, similarly, I think Kendrick Bourne's going to get moved this coming week. Even if not, he's clearly in the doghouse. And I just really like what I'm seeing this kid do every time he's out on the field. Yeah, last week, only 2 fantasy points, 1 catch, 19 yards, but 2 touchdowns the week before, moving all over the place. Just like underlying usage that I really am intrigued by. Big plays that I see him making. I think the kid's a real talent, huge speed. If the quarterback situation can kind of balance itself out, I think we're going to see a nice stretch run from Thornton starting this week against the Jets.
All right, tight ends. What are you doing with all these tight ends here? Usually we got like 1 or 2 tight ends. We got like 7 guys to go through here. Pat Freiermuth, higher at Philly, tight end 6, 2 spots above the experts. I mean, if you got Freiermuth, you're playing him regardless, whether you got him 6 or 8, right?
Yeah, I just don't understand why he's not like a locked-in top 6 guy at this point. Every week he's played great volume, 10-7, 4, 9, 2, and 9 targets. The 2-target game was when he got hurt. So really only 1 dud on his entire season, excluding the injury-riddled game. 10, 10, 12, 12, and 5 points. So, 4 of his 5 weeks have been very, very useful. So big fan of Pat Freiermuth, commanding a ton of targets, 35% target share last week. I feel good about him. On the opposite end of things, Zach Ertz, a little bit lower this week, saw 10, 10, and then Hopkins comes back, 4 targets. So I think with Hopkins back, I'm so much lower on Rondale Moore, on Zach Ertz moving forward. Yeah, I mean, I have Ertz, so I'm playing in Minnesota as a plus matchup for him, but I'm real worried about what Hopkins' return means for him, for sure.
Dalton Schultz, and the last 2 guys you got 1 higher and you got 1 lower, both kind of significant. Dalton Schultz against the Bears, you got him as tight end 8, 5 spots above. The reason that's significant is because, the experts would say he's maybe not even a starter, and you're saying, yeah, he definitely is. Whereas Hawkinson, if I'm reading this right, the experts have Hawkinson as the tight end 1. Is that correct?
I don't know. It can't be. I think so I have him at tight end 11 and I'm -5 on him.
Okay,
so
but you have tight end 6 written down on the page and you're 5 lower.
So
which would have him as tight end 1. I was like, that's the only reason I want to talk about this. This guy as the tight end 1.
No, he is a top 6 tight end, which means he's above Pat Freiermuth. He's above Taysom Hill. 2 guys that I would 100% not even think twice.
Okay.
Hawkinson has 1 good game on the year. Granted, he had 36 fucking points. I mean, it was a real good game, but that was against Seattle, who's been just murdered by tight ends all year. The rest of the season, 6, 4, 9, 7 fantasy points. Like, okay, all tight end 11 numbers. He's been outside your top 11 tight ends in all but that 1 smashed week. So I don't love Hawkinson. Meanwhile, I like Schultz, who's seen 7 and 10 fantasy points in his 2 games with Dak, 5 and 9 targets. Chicago, bad defense. I think Schultz, he's ranked outside the top 16 tight ends by the experts. I have tight end 8, so tight end 13. So not even really a fringe starter for the experts here. So yeah, I like Dalton Schultz. Back with Dak, real big chemistry for him.
All right, let's talk Hail Marys. Cade Otton. You've been talking a lot about this guy lately. 13% owned. Also, you referenced Greg Dulcich. He's 41% owned, so he's not really a Hail Mary. I mean, that's a whole different conversation, but I see why you like him. And then we got Harrison Bryant going against the Bengals, only 5% owned. And, of course, if you want to watch a guy, you've got, as always, Kyle Pitts. I'm not watching Kyle Pitts. What are you talking about?
If you want to watch him puke is really what I wanted to just say. I set myself up for such a great punchline. Yeah. But no. To Cade Otton, the 2 games without Cameron Brate, 7 and 8 fantasy points. You have 7 and 5 targets, 5 catches in both games. Well, actually 4 and 6, rather. So average of 5 catches. But still, been a solid weapon. Think he could find the end zone. Baltimore's been a plus matchup all year, top 7 matchup for tight ends. No Russell Gage, probably no Julio. Great guy to work the middle of the field that Brady has shown some real trust in that you don't typically see for a rookie tight end. So I really like Cade Otton. Wanted to mention Greg Dulcich, who's been a top 12 tight end in his only 2 starts so far this year. Could be another top 12 week for him. And then Harrison Bryant, no Njoku here. And Harrison Bryant, a former Mackey Award winner as the best tight end in the league. He has only made 1 to 2 spot starts for David Njoku across his career. But when he started, he's scored in all but one of those games. So I think he's a definite bet given the way they've been using their tight end so far this year. I think Harrison Bryant, a good, solid talent that's going to step right into a 6 to 8 target role. He's not David Njoku level athletic, but pretty good, just big body that I could see definitely being a viable touchdown threat. So if you're desperate at tight end, 5% rostered, don't be shocked if Harrison Bryant has himself a nice day.
All right. That does it for that. We do have a pretty decent-sized mailbag. I'm going to have to run in a couple minutes because I actually have to put my kid to bed. But I do want to selectively, before I let you handle the vast majority of the mailbag, I do want to selectively pick a couple of these that I've been looking at. First one, CJ, question for Nat and the Wolf Pack. Who will have more drinks at the wedding Saturday night? Wolf, 2.5 point favorite. Or CJ, my money's on the Wolf. I'm not going to lie. I think the Wolf can sacrifice those 2.5 drinks right away, and I think he still probably wins fairly decisively. Wolf, what do you think?
Oh yeah, this is a no-brainer. I'm going to bury CJ in about
What do you think? What do you think an appropriate spread would be? Because I think 2.5. I mean, there's going to be a lot of money coming in on the Wolf there.
I think so too. I don't think that line is anything insurmountable by any chance. I will say this though: CJ can put him back. I mean, I've drank with CJ. The guy.
I believe you. I can put him back too. I would still like you over me, probably.
It's going to be a rough Sunday show either way. Let's put it that way. We're both going to be in some pretty terrible shape here. So, nice. We will see. I would hammer myself. I'd probably set the line at 4 drinks. It depends, though, too. Is he starting it only at the night after the ceremony? Because, like I said, I'm officiating, and there's a good chance I'm going to put back a few, ease the tone. You get a 2 to 3 drinks before I'm even doing the ceremony type of situation.
Prop bet. What is the prop bet on you vomiting on the bride?
Oh, I mean, I'd like to think I
plus 4,000.
Yeah, plus 4,000, and I mean, I wouldn't even hate.
It's not impossible.
In that case,
it's not possible, right?
Yeah,
anyway.
but no, I'd hammer myself beating CJ by 2.5.
So, in contrast to what you guys are going on, I'm in the midst of not drinking for 45 days.
Really?
Yeah, I'm on day 18.
Wow. I was going to say, it's been a while since we've cheersed on the show. Good for you. Any particular reason or just kind of?
Yeah. Basically, I got on the scale. I almost never weigh myself, and I got on the scale and I didn't like what I saw. And I was like, the biggest reason for this is probably that I'm just drinking so many empty calories every night. Yeah. And so, so that's my goal. So I'm not drinking until Thanksgiving break.
Wow. Good for you.
Yeah.
Have you seen any good results on the scale too?
I've dropped 7 pounds in 2.5 weeks. Not too bad. Something,
bad.
Right?
That's something, absolutely.
Yeah, so we'll see how that works out. So if I seem overly sharp to you, that's why.
Sober truth.
Texas Hustler. Holy shit, Russell Wilson is the shit, holding his shit to save time. Best fantasy football podcast ever. My people's the Wolf and baby Gronk. That's right. Be wildin'. Love the show. Dallas, Texas is always watching. One of our favorite viewer/listeners always. We really,
Best hype man in the world.
Oh, definitely. There's one or two more that I wanted to address real quick.
We got to get our call in, don't we?
We do got to get our call. Well, that'll be the last thing, and then I'll leave.
Okay.
Angel, yo, Wolf, why is your boy such a John? This is just trolling you, basically. He's still butthurt about the 2 Super Bowl wins against the Pats, 18-1, baby. Wolf, are you still butthurt about those Super Bowl wins?
Always will be. That will never leave. My anus will always hurt from those 2 losses. Like, there's no question about it. I'm definitely butthurt, but like, the Giants are 6-1. Yes, other than Saquon, there's nobody. And I'd like Wan'Dale now moving forward. Danny Vick out there, I guess, at 100-yard game, but I just don't believe in Daniel Jones as a fantasy product. I just don't believe in the Giants as a they're the
I don't either. I don't either.
And they're going to lose to the Bucs in round 1 of the playoffs. Tommy B is going to come back against them.
If the Bucs make the playoffs, you might be right.
Make the playoffs, true. But no, I hate you. I love you, kid. But no, I'm definitely butthurt about him. That's not really what's informing my fantasy biases.
Last one before we go to Dave, and then I got to go. Tanner Nelson. I traded Mike Thomas for Brandon Aiyuk. Win or loss? Yeah, that's a win, dude.
Huge win. We were just talking about Brendan Aiyuk. MTV.
We're talking about maybe cutting him, and we like Aiyuk a lot. So yes, obviously that's a win. Bring David up here, and then I got to take off.
Our guy David, what's going on, man? Welcome back to the show.
How you guys doing? You're catching me off guard now.
Blacklight party over there. What's
I know you got the black. You got the black light on.
I wish. No, got to keep the lights dim for the baby. But
okay.
How old's the baby?
Over 3 months now.
Oh, that's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Enjoy. That.
Sorry, Truth, about Thursday. It was my anniversary. I apologize to Wolf already.
It's all right.
So I had to prioritize.
Way too forgiving, Truth. Way too forgiving.
So
you guys got a 3-month-old kid. You've never been there, dude, but I've been there a couple times, and you give him a pass on a lot of these things.
Yeah.
So I want to. Where are we on Malik Willis? Are we monitoring the Tannehill news? And if he comes in, is he like a must play in a Superflex league?
I think so. I mean, it really depends on who your other options would be. I would be, Tannehill didn't practice today. That's Wednesday reports, though. That's why I like being able to mostly go on Thursday. That's when we really start to get some tea leaves. If he sits tomorrow, doesn't even get a limited in, that's where I might drop my kicker or drop a defense, pick up Willis, and kind of get a feel for how this plays out. I think he'd probably rank right around my top 18 quarterbacks, given it's a Houston matchup. I like it. I would love him in that spot. It depends on who your other guy might be. But, yeah, I would probably over Trevor Lawrence, over Russell Wilson, over a lot of guys. I'd have Malik Willis for sure.
Yeah, not to parrot just exactly what the Wolf said, basically, but it depends on your other options. But there's loads and loads of guys I'd put him in before.
Yeah, so
definitely.
My Superflex right now is Heineke with Brissett on the bench. So I feel like I could cut Brissett to bring in, or even a Heineke to bring in Willis to see if he's going to start. Fire it up.
I'd feel pretty comfortable.
Over either of them.
I would feel pretty comfortable getting rid of either of those guys if it meant putting him in. Yeah,
absolutely. I would wait till tomorrow's report. If Tannehill sits again, pick him up right away.
Okay.
Also, just as an aside before I take off, Dave, I know you always like mush picks. I'm not picking a mush player this week. I'm picking a game.
Okay.
Broncos Jaguars London game. It's a mush game.
Okay.
We get a touchdown in that game, Truth. A single touchdown.
I'm taking a full under on that one.
I'd be careful because the under might be like 17.5 or something like that. And you still might hit.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to say I love the haircut for the Truth.
Thank you. I substitute teaching in elementary school. I got a lot of compliments today.
There you go.
From the children, from not from any of the adults.
All right, guys. Thank
you.
Looking
nice and clean, Truth. I meant to say it before we went live.
This is I don't know if you watched The Simpsons, but when Barney quit drinking, all of a sudden he looked really respectable. This is me not drinking, Wolf.
There you go.
This is
the face looks a little thinner.
Right. Yeah. Once I'm back on the sauce, you're gonna see a completely disheveled Truth. Don't worry, I'm counting the days. I'll be back.
The week after Thanksgiving, Truth just comes on and is like a corpse, like a mess.
I've already told my wife many times my plans for just getting absolutely blitzed over Thanksgiving just by myself.
Oh,
Jimmy, it's going to be great.
Yeah.
Wow.
We'll have to do a stream at that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Over under how many drinks are consumed on the first day. Wolf, set the odds. Let's go.
Oh,
if you want to do a Thanksgiving podcast, I mean, I don't know if you can because I will definitely get wrecked with you on that.
Oh yeah. We did one last Thanksgiving morning. It was great. I had the turkey on the smoker. We were pounding the beers back. It was awesome.
I'm in.
I would say over under Truce first day non-drinking. I'll set the drinks at 13 and a half.
Okay.
I was going to say like 11, 12. So you're in the ballpark.
I think it's going to hit your lips. It just comes down to how early do you start. Like if it's like Thanksgiving and that's your day starting, you're going to have a 9 a.m. beer. I'm telling you, 15 easy there.
Dave's probably going to learn this at some point too, and you will too, Wolf. It's like that does make it tough because I generally don't get hammered around the kids, but man, once they go to bed, it's on. Like Donkey Kong.
Have a good one, guys.
All right, man.
Like, subscribe, comment. Let's blast to the moon.
Thanks so much, David. Always love having you on.
Talk to you later.
And I'm taking off. Wolf, Texas Hustler just threw us a super chat. I will see you later. Have a great one. I'll post this pod tonight after I take care of my kid.
Cheers. Thanks so much, man. Always great seeing your truth. Have a good rest of the week. We'll see you later. All righty. My man, Texas Hustler, thank you so much for the super chat. So greatly appreciated. Waller, Schultz, Everett. Cut one, leaning Waller. Woo. Gordon. All right, so let's start with the first one. Waller, Schultz, Everett, cut one. Oh, man, that's tough. I think I might agree with Waller, which is just so crazy to think entering the year. Like we would never even thought that. But what are we seeing that makes him really worth holding on to? I'd have a hard time. I know Everett, it's his bye week, but with Mike Willie laid up for a long time here, I have a hard time cutting Everett. He's been pretty damn solid all year. And Schultz seems to be getting going again with Dak. The only thing, though, is Schultz's injury. You got to monitor it. Like if he's limited today, moving forward in the week, he got tackled awkwardly. He doesn't look fully like himself. So part of me is leaning Schultz here. Just like, is he ever going to fully be that guy we saw last year that was a target hog? But yeah, gun to my head, I'd cut Waller right now. If I had to make the move today, I would see if you can wait just a couple days. Texas Hustler, let's see if we get some news on Schultz and his knee and if he's going to be banged up a bit. But yeah, I'm leaning to Waller, all things equal. Gordon, Herbert, Eno, D. Harris. You got to cut one of them. Or is it start one of them? If it's starting one, it's Herbert for sure. When you said leaning Herbert, then that's where I was like, okay, it's got to be Herbert because that Broncos situation's ugly. I do think Gordon is going to get taken over by Murray. He already kind of is as the game went on, and one bad fumble, he's toast. Harris, 40 snaps to Ramondre, 9 to Harris. It's a full takeover at this point. Ramondre is the only running back you can trust there. Harris does always have that touchdown upside, but a good Jets defense, not trusting him this week. So, yeah, with now assuming Connor's back and Darrell Williams back, Eno does nothing for me. He'd be the first guy I cut from this list. So, yeah, to me, it's Herbert. Again, as you said, 15 and 14 touches, 1 touch more for David Montgomery last week. 41% of snaps went to Herbert. They continue to talk about getting him more and more involved, and he just looks better and better by the week. So, yeah, give me Herbert, the best talent here. Baby Gronk, no BS ever, just the real, always bringing fire down there. I love it. Hustler, you're the fucking man. Thank you so much for the hype always. Thank you for the super chat and your support. It's so greatly appreciated. 7-0. Love to see it, my man. And now Etienne, you've been all about him, as you said, Travis, all summer. So great to see. And good to see the stream is back and working for you. It's fine for me, Chris. So it looks like it was good for everyone else. Hopefully it got good for you, Chris. Shout out to your 7-0 team. And only getting better, like you said, with Etienne now a top 15 running back rest of the year. Juan Pena, flexing running back 2. Gibson, Williams, Herbert, Eno, Benjamin, Connor. I would go Connor and Jamal Williams here. If Connor does sit, then obviously you fire up Eno there. Jamal just a good touchdown bet each and every week, but Herbert's closing that gap rapidly. Kyron Williams return to practice, jump. I agree, Roth. We talked about him there, but definitely stash. It's still only 35, 40% rostered. Should be 70%. Especially with Henderson illness, what if that lingers? So yeah, absolutely. They've had huge plans for him all year. He hasn't been able to stay healthy, but if we get health, Williams could be one of those real stretch run difference maker. Absolutely. And as we go in here, Wolfpack, through your questions, happy to answer them all, but what would be so appreciated is that thumbs up. Free, easy way to support us. Help us get out to more people as we answer all your questions, like, shares, retweets, all that good stuff. It does truly go such a long way. And if you're new here, saw some new names as I was scrolling up, join the pack. Would be so greatly appreciated. We're live 4 times a week answering your questions. Please do consider, if you haven't already, helping us continue to get those numbers up, Wolfpack. Michael Bernardo had non-PPR. Would you trade Kamara and Juju for Kelsey? That's close. You do have really good running back depth, though. The receiver depth's a little sketchier here. I do like Cooper, though, and I think he's only going to get better. I would pull the trigger here. I'd see if you can sneak another piece in with Kelsey, But even if not, I would probably pull this. The thing is, like, Juju's starting to emerge, but I think you're also selling pretty high there. Like, who knows if that will actually stay steady? So, yeah, I do that deal, given how big of an edge Kelsey is. Thought I lost today. Nah, Kristen. We just had to be early because your boys' rehearsal dinner tomorrow. Let's pick one. Connor, Williams, Hurst, Wan'Dale, Kirk. In a standard league, I do think James Conner has the highest touchdown upside here. So I go him. That's where I lean. Who for my wide receiver 1 and 2? Thielen, Wan'Dale, Jerry Jeudy, Curtis Samuel, Allen Robinson, or Duvernay. I'm going to go Thielen, and I'm going to go Wan'Dale. The first two you list there, Juan, is where I'm leaning. Again, Wan'Dale, 27.5% targets per route, like top 10 in the league there. Thielen, a good bet for the end zone every single week. So I feel good about those guys. Bills. So Roth, I 100% agree. And I actually recommended him. I don't know if you caught the Waiver Wire show, but as my like sneaky under the radar stash right now, we've seen a lot of times that post-bye rookie bump. Wouldn't be shocked at all to see James Cook see like 10 carries out of nowhere, be the number 1 pickup of the week next week. I think he's so damn explosive, so damn talented. Wouldn't be shocked at all to see him be one of those. Like we just talked about Kyron Williams being a stretch run hero. James Cook, nobody thinking about him right now. I'm with you, Roth. Great talent. Gets blowout burn. Wouldn't be shocked to see Zach Moss inactive the last time out. Would like to see James Cook get rolling more and more. First time, long time from some wise ass named CJ. Love the show. Good. Glad at least you like it. Waited out for James Conner. Played Bateman in the flex. R.I.P. Brees. What a tough downgrade here. I like Bateman. I do. I think Bateman has a nice day. It's not because I don't think James Conner plays. I think he does. I think I just might prefer Bateman in a PPR league. I think that's I don't know what the settings are, but I think you typically play half or full. So, half PPR there. So, yeah, I'm probably going Bateman. Get yourself a little Thursday night juice. PPR, should I trade Edwards for Carter? I also own Dobbins. Oh, that's tough. I like them both the rest of the season. Gun to my head. I'm a little biased because I have in every league. I'm going to go Gus there. Full PPR for Tunes. Need 3 and 2 flex. Bateman, Gus Edwards, Judy Pickens, Robinson. Going to go Robinson and Edwards for the 2 flexes, and I'm going to go Bateman for the wide receiver 3. Magic Mike, thank you for your kind words. Pick 2, full PPR. Start Aaron Jones, Dameon Pierce, Jalen Waddle, or Gabe Davis. Got to start Dameon Pierce. Oh, man, holy shit, this is a tough question now that I think about it. I go Dameon Pierce as the top running back play here, a little bit above Aaron Jones. Man, I think I like Waddle against Detroit in full PPR. I think he'll get peppered and put up some stats with Tua back there. Hate cut Dobbs for picking, and I like that move. Dylan for Gus Bus. I agree with them both, Robert. Definitely sick of the Packers. Aaron Jones, the only one I would play there. But I do like Brian Robinson more than Edwards, I think. A little bit more stable rest of the season role, in my opinion, for similar type of players and offenses. I guess obviously not offenses. Ravens are much more explosive, but I think Edwards, especially when Dobbins does come back, already a messy situation. That's how the Ravens run their backfield, whereas Robinson just continues to emerge as like a 16 to 20 carry guy a week. Pitts, Otten, Ingram, leaning Otten. Yeah, I lean Otten there, 2 Tunes. Pick 2, Fournette, Stevenson, Edwards, or Najee Harris. I'm going to go Fournette and Stevenson there, Pat Sullivan. Tanner Nelson, what receivers could I get when packaging CD and MT? I mean, MT, who knows if anybody wants them. So I don't really know, Tanner. That's a kind of random question. It's tough to answer depending on team strengths, needs, all that stuff. Question for Nat. Oh, yeah. I definitely hammering the wolf there, CJ. Need 2, Fournette, Mostert, JT, Bus, or ETN. Going ETN, and I'm going Fournette there, Russell Kaiser. Y'all think Tannehill's playing? I don't know. I think so, Juan. I think it was just kind of a rest day, get himself healthy, but maybe not. Should I trade Sutton for Najee? Simply, I don't love either, actually, to be the rest of the season, but yeah, I prefer the back that's getting, 75 to 80% of the snaps, most of the touches. I think Sutton's going to be an up and down roller coaster the rest of the year. Rodney Davis, the Shades. After a trade for JT, I have a nice problem. 3 standard. JT Barkley, that's a real nice problem. Pollard, if Zeke is out, in. Barkley's always in. And then I think I go Kamara slightly over JT here, Rodney. But I am very intrigued to see if Sam Ellinger opens up some back cut lanes there for JT. Trade Pittman for Najee and Goddard. I like the move. I do, because I love Goddard. With no tight end especially, I think that's a fair deal. Especially because Pittman, who knows how this plays out with Ellinger. Maybe he's just a target hog, but I don't know. It could be all over the place. Pittman has 1 target at 15+ air yards, none above 20. Just crazy. Heard that one from JJ Zacharysen's pod today. Got offered Pittman and Bateman for Swift. In a 10-team league, I probably prefer Swift. Just, you got the running back depth. Your receivers do kind of suck, though, Kyle, so maybe you take it. But I don't love Pittman or Bateman. I like him, but I don't love him. And Swift could be like a top 5 running back once he's fully healthy. So that's tricky. Kareem Hunt would be awesome. Let's hope. Let's pray, Robert Moreno. Start Gus tomorrow or Aiyuk. I go Aiyuk, Ben, in a full PPR league. Not crazy to buy low on a couple of Broncos, Sutton and Wilson. Yeah, fuck Wilson. No interest. Coaching staff's horrible. Wilson himself's an absolute tool and bad locker room presence. Maybe Sutton just because the targets are always there, but I'm not sprinting to buy him. I'll tell you that much, Chip Duvall. Great to see you, Chip, by the way. Might be able to move Aiyuk, Cousins, and Sanders for Sutton, Wilson, and Chubb. If that deal's on the table, I would do it. I would just cut Wilson. Like it's Sutton and Chubb for Aiyuk, Cousins, and Sanders, essentially. And I would do that. Just depends on what quarterback you would be starting, moving on from there. What can I get from Montgomery and CD? Again, can't answer those questions really because it's like depends on what team strengths you're kind of prioritizing. You're always picking away. So we do have a trade value chart. I will say that on Amon-Ra St. Go check out the trade value chart. One of our highest hitting pieces, one of the smartest writers we have is Jackson Barrett. He values every single player. So you can kind of add up CD and Montgomery, their total, and then compare it on the trade value chart. That's the best route, I would say, for trade value questions because otherwise it's so tricky to analyze. Everett or Ertz or Everett rest of the season? I think it might be Everett with Mike Williams banged up for a lot of the rest of the season, Zach. I have both these guys. You probably are holding on to both of them. But I'm worried about Ertz's season outlook with Hopkins now commanding all these targets. If MT's ruled out again, is he drop? Well, that's what we just talked about, Millie. See, like kind of bad locker room presence. Doesn't seem like he's going to play all year. I would drop Van Jefferson for Kyron. You could also drop Breida. Like it's a nice handcuff to have for Saquon, but I'd probably drop. I always hate that. Like when I'm like drop Breida, and then Saquon gets hurt the next week. But out of all these guys, I'd probably rather have Kyron than Van than Breida. Is how I'd probably rank them. Bulldog guys need to replace Njoku. Who do you prefer, Higbee, Bryant, or Otten? I definitely prefer Higbee. I mean, he's got 10+ targets in all but 1 week, I think. So yeah, big fan of him. Definitely. Got to block. The bots are here for their sit-start questions. The Russian sex bots. Got to know who they have as their wide receiver too, apparently. Alex Moran, college career. Yeah, that's the dream right there, right? Embrace the Martian. Lock it up. Sarah Riley, happy PPR, need a flex. Etienne, Davis, Higgins. You can only pick one of these guys. So I would cross off the last 3. No need to consider Edwards, Robinson, or Aiyuk, which, again, in most lineups, would love to have them, Sarah. But you got Etienne, Davis, and Higgins are definitely above all of them. I lean Etienne. 80% of the snaps, huge game last week. I think the role only gets better and better with no Robinson here. So I'm going to go Etienne there, Sarah. Full PPR, Gus the Bus for A.J. Dillon. Going Gus the Bus, no doubt about it, my man Angel. Dillon's been useless for a long time here. He's a handcuff strictly. Need to pick up a QB this week during Herbert's bye. Dalton or Danny Dimes. I know it was lower on Danny Dimes, but I still had him quarterback 14. Good rushing upside. 29 fantasy points last week. Seems to be getting better and better and more comfortable. So I go Danny Dimes over Andy Dalton. I do. I think that's serviceable to get you through Herbert's bye. Carr limited today. He'll play. He's going to play Millie. But thanks for the news. Always helpful. Need to pick one for week 8. Sutton, Pickens, Wan'Dale, or Myers. I go Sutton, but man, I have the same question like Wan'Dale or Sutton myself, and it's getting close. I do like Pickens a lot too. So if your gut's like, I want to bench Sutton, do it. In fact, maybe Myers is higher than all these guys. Bulldog, I have them all in the same tier. I have them all near each other. It's so tough. That's a gut call. Sutton's kind of got the lowest floor, in my opinion, even though I like the ceiling. I like the name value, I guess. But I kind of probably think if PPR full, I think I lean Jacoby. Geno Smith, actually, I have above all those guys, Ryan. I'd go Geno. I'd trade Josh Jacobs and Duvernay for George Kittle. Oh, no, that's a tough one. That is pain. It's looking like Josh Jacobs one of the league winners this year. Millie C, yeah, thoughts on James Cook? I just talked about this, so you probably already heard it. But I do think if you got bench trash to cut, I like James Cook. Post-bye, we've seen that for rookies so many times. They just randomly start getting more and more involved. So, yes, I like him. Should I trade Mixon and Pitts for Swift and Goddard? Yeah, I like Mixon more than Swift, but I think Goddard's a huge upgrade over Pitts. So, yeah, I think so. Traded MT. Yeah, that was a huge win, Tanner, obviously. Silence for your team. Third place lost Brees, Njoku, DK, Lazard. Tough game, Fatty Mateo. Man, that's tough. But knowing you can come out of this. Henderson updated, as you mentioned, for us. Yeah, I am that hater, baby. So maybe it was Truth is the hater, but maybe I'm the hater. Who knows? Bulls are undefeated. They're going. You're undefeated. Life is good for you, Chris. I hope the good times keep rolling, brother. Ever since you discovered this show, life has been the best it's ever been. Glad to have you around. You're a great fan, my dude. Thumbs up indeed. Wolfpack, that thumbs up is so greatly appreciated and helpful for us. Eckler, Mike Williams, DK, D. Henry, Pierce, life is good when health is good. Indeed it is. Kevin Rice. So your team is much better when it is fully healthy, as is the case for all of us. Which flex options? My computer might die any second, by the way, guys. So if I just suddenly cut out and log off, my apologies. But we're at the tail end of the mailbag, so I think we'll get through. But just a heads up, if I cut out, wasn't purposeful. Boys, which flex options do I grab off waiver wire? Samuel Bateman, Chuba, Boyd. Boyd and I think Bateman for me. Chuba's in and playing, maybe we switch it up. But I would get Bateman in your lineup on Thursday, and we kind of figure out the rest. But I'm leaning Boyd right now with how that's playing out. I do love Wan'Dale a lot too, though. Daddy. Start Edwards or Wan'Dale. I'm going Edwards there, Andre. Eckler, Fournette, Travis Etienne, D. Pierce. Running backs on running backs on running backs, baby. Where's Hunt going? Hopefully the Rams. That's where I think so. He's available for a fourth-round pick, especially today. Rams, you know how quickly they'll give up their picks. Yeah. Not a Bills fan, but if they trade and got Hunt, I mean, yeah, that too. They're already going to the Super Bowl. But, man, that would be even sexier. I agree. Full PPR, looking to upgrade. Ken Walker and Judy for Adams. I have a hard time moving Walker right now. If you needed the depth, Olave and Waddle's sexy. I do like Adams too, but I just don't want to move Walker. I think he's a top 6 running back the rest of the year. You already have Saquon and Henry, but can you play Walker in the flex? You know what I mean? That's tough. I think you can get a little bit more. Maybe you can Adams in a piece. Olave and Waddle's damn good too if you really need the depth. It's not unfair offers, I'll tell you that, but I'm personally not moving Walker. Should I start Damian Pierce or Walker? That's tough, man. Good options, but I'm going to go Kenneth Walker. Talking about Truth's haircut made me think of the barber scene, and we got the Millers. Yeah, Truth. Hey, fellas, Gus or Foreman, DJ Moore or Lockett? I'm going to go Gus over Foreman, and I'm going to go Lockett over DJ Moore with no Metcalf likely this week. Got to block another sex spot. They're really looking for that sit-start help this week, apparently. Willis is stash and redraft. I think so if you're quarterback needy, but only if we don't see Tannehill practice again tomorrow. And only if you need a quarterback, too. Like in redraft single QB, not that important. Should I keep Gus or M. Carter for rest of season, says Robert Avila or Aravila. I don't know why I guess you're Robert. I lean Gus very slightly. I think James Robinson's going to be a bigger thorn than Michael Carter fans think. Manders is out. He's probably playing, but where would I rank likely? Right around K-Dot and tight end 14, 15. Right in that range, Brian Martinez. I don't know which one I prefer, to be honest. Let's worry about that if we have to. Do we fade Aaron Jones for James Conner? No, I still like Aaron Jones. His role has still been pretty viable. 70% of snaps last week, a lot of routes. I think he's going to run a ton of routes today, this week against Buffalo. Damian Williams, I don't know why. No, it's a run-heavy attack, but it's gross as all hell, and Patterson will be back soon. Montgomery, Carter, Lazard in the flex. Leaning Montgomery there, even though I'm a little bit lower on him this week. Waller will be playing. It looks like he's practicing, but I would lean Schultz here. Nicola. Irv or Dulcich. I kind of like Dulcich, top 12 tight end both of his weeks so far. Just traded Dulcich and gave up Paris Campbell. In Dynasty, I prefer Dulcich myself. It sounds like you traded for Dulcich to give up Paris. I think you won that deal. Lincoln was here. And trade Monty for Hunt. Yeah, I think so, because I think Monty's only going down as good as Herbert's looking. Wolfpack, thank you so much. Good turnout. Lots of questions for a Wednesday edition of our Thursday show. So appreciate it. If you're here for the replay or you're here live on your way out, that thumbs up is so helpful at getting us out to more people. A lot of new names there towards the tail end. If you haven't already, please do hit the sub so you can keep being here. Thank you, Buddy P. Moon. I love that you're here. Love the energy you guys bring. I haven't looked at Underdog, unfortunately. Code RSJ for anybody out there. Love Underdog. I have not looked at the line, so I can't give you any advice right now, buddy, but I really do appreciate your kind words. We do love to bring the energy, and we love having you here. So if you're new or anybody else is new, that sub button, keep helping us grow, keeping that thumbs up and helping us get out there to more people. Wolfpack, so greatly appreciate it. All my content, all these updated rankings will be at groceryjournal.com. We're breeding feed you fantasy wolves. The wolf of fantasy sheep. Be the wolf, guys. Later.